Off and rolling on this Thursday morning. Thanks for hanging out. We got Bert, we got Lucas, we got you till 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045. FNM Bank Chat greets us this morning. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Like Austin B., who says on YouTube, Morant MVP. Don't let this be a lake show, Buck. Stay with us, Grizzlies fans. Did you watch the Memphis Grizzlies last night?
I did not get a chance to watch the Grizzlies last night.
Did you see your arch rival, Zach Edey?
It's going to make it harder for me to root for the Grizzlies knowing that ogre is on their bench.
Well, he's not playing many minutes. He fouled out in 15 minutes of play last night.
Yeah. The Zach Edey experience.
That happened so fast. That's amazing. That's a foul. What's 15 divided by 6?
Go ahead.
It doesn't work like that.
What do you mean?
15 divided by 6? What are you going to do?
You said he played 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, it doesn't go into it.
So a foul.
I mean, it does. It's just going to be a decimal.
A foul every 2.5 minutes?
Sure. I'm not fact-checking you.
No, me neither. No, we're too scared of math around here. Anytime somebody volunteers themselves to do math, the rest of us just scurry away like roaches when you turn on the lights. Anyway, we're not here to open with the Grizzlies, though the Grizzlies did win last night. Preds have won a game. Grizzlies have won a game. Two pro teams trying to win. The other pro team...
Titans have won a game.
Titans have won a game. That's right. That's right. It seems so long ago. Doesn't the week 5 bye seem like an eternity ago? And it was only 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, the date at Detroit is upcoming. They are not going to be favored in that game. It is going to be interesting to see whether they can give themselves even a chance in that game because every ounce of logic about it says that it should be a blowout in favor of the home team because the Lions are rolling right now and they're arguably one of the best 3 teams. They're not arguably, they are inarguably one of the best 3 teams in football right now heading into week 8. But for the Titans, it's a hard reset of the reset, isn't it? So DeAndre Hopkins gets traded before the show. Ernest Jones gets traded during the show. Since then, things have cooled down, though it does not mean that things, to hear people talk about the Hopkins trade, that happened around midnight on Tuesday morning and concluded at about 5 a.m., so these things can happen pretty instantaneously. All it takes is one team to call. So we'll see what else ends up happening. And Brian Callahan, I guess, is not going to address the team writ large about trades until such time as, you can count on things being safe and settled down. Though we are still 12 days, 11 days from the trade deadline passing. And we went into the locker room for the first time yesterday since DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones were traded. And, I guess people are, what do you think people think an NFL locker room would look like in a situation like that?
I think people jump to, they're going to lose the locker room. The locker room is going to fracture very, very quickly. When that does happen, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but you're still talking about professionals in that locker room, right? That are still there. It's their job, right? Like you don't just stop doing your job because things aren't going well.
Some people do. It's called quiet quitting. But
sure,
you're not going to make it very long in the NFL if you're somebody who decides to quiet quit on a team, because that's not exactly quiet when your performance tells the entire story.
Like, what are instances in the NFL that come to mind for you of a coach just flat out losing the locker room? Because I think like Josh McDaniels in Vegas.
I wasn't there, so it's really hard for me to speak about it. Now, I will say
that Josh McDaniels lost the locker. I mean, there was about to be a revolt in Vegas.
I know, but I want to be like I can't speak with confidence about it because I wasn't in that locker room. I wasn't talking to those players. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure, but
I can only go with my experience, and I wasn't in the locker rooms with Wisenhunt. That was my first year here when he got fired, so I just run it through my own purview. I think Vrabel lost half of them. I think Vrabel lost half of them. Now, that's not, you don't have to lose an entire locker room to lose the locker room, quote unquote. But I do think that that's something, that was so.
I don't think you have to be in a locker room talking to players to see when a coach loses a locker room. Did Urban Meyer lose his Jags team? Yeah, they did. You didn't have to be in there, but talking to players at their locker to see what happened with Urban Meyer and the Jags.
That's a very extreme example.
But that's what I'm saying. These are extreme examples. A coach actually losing the locker room to where NFL players don't even want to do their jobs for a coach is a very extreme situation. The likes that we see with the Josh McDaniels and Urban Meyers of the world.
I So I guess I don't know what people think of an NFL locker room if you've never been in there with players, right? Because for the most part, you didn't really notice that anybody had been traded until you start asking the questions, hey, what's it going to be like without Hopkins? This was Jeffrey Simmons speaking in the locker room yesterday, not just about DeAndre Hopkins, but also about Ernest Jones, the fourth, who was the second trade made on the day. And we'll see if it ends up being the last trade that the Titans make or if there's still more work to be done there.
I mean, yeah, we all knew what D-Hop brought to the team. But at the end of the day, like I said, you know how this thing go. You know, players come and go. I'm going to miss him for sure, for his presence and what he brought to the team. But, you know, we 1-5. I think the focus need to be on the guys in the locker room. How can we be better leaders, especially throughout the week? Just focus on the small details and focus on everyone just being disciplined, doing their job. I think that's needed to be the focus going forward. But like I said, we lost two good players today, including Ernest. You know, gonna miss playing with him the little time that we had. You know, another guy that had major respect for just over the small time. But, you know, have full confidence in the guys that have been here before him, like Jack Gibbons, and the way he carried himself in professionalism. I think, you know, we shouldn't miss a beat. And the great part about it, you know, especially on defense, you know, our record don't shows it, but, I mean, we still the number one defense. And that's the exciting part about it, that we playing so much good defense, but not great defense. And like I said, just the small things and the details and the discipline could lead us to a better record than what we got right now.
So it's easy to hear Jeff talk about, well, we still have the number one defense and be like, oh, yeah, for what? But, I mean, listen, their job is to go out there and continue to play football games. They have to maintain some level of positivity because, again, I remind you, there's 11 more weeks to go for them straight. No breaks on this. And so, you know, a little somber tone there from Jeff, but for the defensive side of things, Jerome Baker, he's not a better player than Ernest Jones was, but I think he's less of a redundancy from Ernest Jones and Kenneth Murray, who have a lot of similarities. Jerome Baker, who, you know, was on a one-year deal. It wasn't anything crazy. He didn't get huge money from the Seahawks, but he's still a young player. He's a better player in coverage than was Ernest Jones, so I think you have more complementary pieces there. Now, is he going to be there today? I have no idea. I would expect so, but we'll see. Is he going to play on Sunday? I would maybe imagine a smaller role like Ernest in that Bears game because he got here, what, was it that week or like 10 days before the season opener at Chicago? So we'll see what happens with Jerome Baker and Ernest Jones and everything that went down there. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, it is different because I see some comments like A.J. Park. Well, it's just the one comment, to be fair. A.J. Parkinson on YouTube says,
I feel like that was a big step by you.
Dude, nature is healing.
Yeah, how about that?
Not to just jump to conclusions that everyone feels the same as one person.
The way that both of you just pounced on me, instead of just letting me do it organically without drawing immediate attention to it.
We are giving you your flowers for once.
We're so proud of you, honey.
Thanks. So it's just one person, so it's not the popular opinion here, but A.J. Parkinson says, let's be fair, DeAndre Hopkins had 15 catches for 171 yards, no big loss there. Okay, if you want to think that way, you can, but he's the most reliable target on the field because nobody's catching. I mean, wide receivers, the Titans quarterbacks are averaging the fewest or second fewest to Jacoby Brissett, the second fewest completions to wide receivers through 7 weeks of NFL football. Like, it's not like any of the wide receivers are making an impact because the passing game feels a bit broken right now, doesn't it? So honestly, I think that's more of an indictment on the people orchestrating the passing game, including the quarterback. Because it's not just Will Levis that looks worse in this system. It's that DeAndre Hopkins was off to the career worst start through 6 games, when what's the one thing that we have always known about DeAndre Hopkins? It doesn't matter who plays quarterback. He'll make you right. So that's why I struggle. I'm not going to, blow up on one person because, again, it's just one person voicing an opinion. You can have an opinion about that. But I think that's a little short-sighted based on what this team is right now. See, nuance. Look at that.
But also, in a way, it's not a huge loss because it doesn't dramatically change the trajectory of where your season was going, right?
We'll never know.
I guess we'll never know.
Right? Because the whole thing is we're going to keep trotting him out there, Levis, whenever we can. So, like, could it have affected the trajectory of the season? We will never know. That's now a hypothetical that we can't answer. Because I get your point.
I feel like they traded him because of the trajectory the season was on with or without D-Hop. Not to say he's not an impactful player. He still is. And I imagine he's going to step right in and be an immediate contributor to the Chiefs. And he's going to be a pro's pro. And he is a big impact player in the locker room from a leadership perspective. But that was an acknowledgement by the franchise saying, we know where this season is going. Let's get what we can for DeAndre Hopkins.
Do you have headlines?
I have a bunch of headlines.
They're next. Looking for longer-lasting fog light for your drive? Upgrade to Sylvania LED fog bulbs. Easy to install LED fog light bulbs will get you out of the driveway and back onto the road in no time. Sylvania is the guiding light for all of your power sport and fog bulb needs. For a limited time, get a $20 O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card after rebate with purchase of select Sylvania LED fog bulbs plus 2 times O Rewards points. O'Reilly Auto Parts is also celebrating the 25th anniversary of their famous jingle, and they want you to be a part of the celebration. I think every show on 104.5 The Zone has also submitted their own original version of the O'Reilly jingle. Ours is particularly bad. You can check it out on the social media channels if you want an example. They want you to submit a cover of the jingle, a remix, or your own choreographed dance for the opportunity to win exclusive merch and prizes, including 3 $5,000 grand prize winners from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Submit your video to O'ReillyJingleContest.com now through October 31st. Terms and conditions do apply. No purchase necessary.
It's time for NFL Headlines with Buck Rising correspondent Lucas Panzica.
Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur.
You good?
Something got caught in my throat.
You getting choked up? You're emotional about Matt LaFleur there?
He's seeking out some help from an old friend. Matt LaFleur has brought in Robert Saleh to help with the Packers offense. Saleh was at practice yesterday in Green Bay. LaFleur calls his role with the team, quote, fluid. They are old buddies that go back to their time at Central Michigan early in their coaching careers. They coached together in Houston, very, very close friends. And I wish the Packers played the Jets this year because that would be awesome.
Just for the Saleh revenge game?
Yes, the Saleh revenge game, the Rodgers revenge game, the Devontae Adams revenge game.
However, the Packers played. I mean, I guess not because he hasn't been available. And I don't recall them playing last year.
They have not. Remember last year, the Week 1 opener when the Jets were playing the Bills, and it was Rodgers' debut, and then there was this bar in Wisconsin that was doing this special of, wasn't it free drinks if the Jets lost? Is that what it was? Like free drinks for the bar?
Like free drinks every time Rodgers got sacked? I thought it was something more.
I thought it was just if the Jets lost because
we'll go with that. That sounds more reasonable.
The place went nuts when Rodgers went down, thinking that it was a wrap, and then the Jets came back and won in that thrilling walk-off punt return for a touchdown in overtime. Yeah. Very somber people because they racked up their tabs thinking that the game was going to be over.
So
anyway,
I wonder. Because there's not a rule preventing you from making like an in-season hire like that. Is he on their payroll? I would have to assume that he's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart.
Right.
Just to,
I don't know.
Spend time around the Green Bay Packers.
It's a weird situation. He's just there.
If I was Jeff Hafley, their defensive coordinator, I'd be like, get this guy out of here. I don't want to hang out with this dude.
Well,
this guy's going to take my job.
LaFleur said Saleh would work with the team through Thursday this week. And he called his role fluid and said Saleh's been staying at LaFleur's house this week.
Okay.
So I don't know let that guy stay at my house.
Robert Saleh?
Way too good looking.
He is the rare good looking bald.
He can pull it off. He doesn't have any of those moon craters in his head like most bald dudes do.
That's the thing that I fear the most. If you really want to upset me, you can talk to me about my hairline. That's the thing that I'm scared of.
It's peeling back.
I know. It's just the way it's already defined there because I've got the widow's peak anyway, and I can see it around the corners. Kind of. It makes me nervous.
Fun fact for you guys before
I would be an ugly bald.
Before we go back to the headlines, do you know what happened last time the Jets and the Packers played?
No.
Zach Wilson took down Aaron Rodgers 27-10.
Is that so?
It is. He completed 10 of 18 for 110 yards. He didn't do anything, but he was the winning quarterback.
That's fine.
What season was that?
That was in 2022.
Okay.
So that would have been what? Zach Wilson's second year as a quarterback? Wilson was the 2021 draft.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, It was his second year as quarterback.
Well,
okay, interesting.
Matt LaFleur, who was the best man in Robert Saleh's wedding, by the way, has enlisted his old buddy to come help them this week. We'll see if there's anything past that. The Packers are traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jags for a noon kickoff on Sunday.
So by this theory, could somebody just bring in, I mean, maybe nobody would be comfortable enough in their job security to just bring in Bill Belichick to hang around the office and stuff like that. But Saban, I guess, is doing this with Alabama. I don't understand why more people don't do it. I mean, I guess there's not a volume of good coaches that get fired this way. But anyway, interesting.
Speaking of the Jets, everything is great now. Firing Robert Saleh fixed all of their problems, amazingly. No, that's not the case at all.
In fact, their defense looks lost.
Devontae Adams
Gardner is hurt.
Gave an impassioned speech to the Jets locker room.
Oh, good.
After their loss to the Steelers. He said there was a lack of energy and urgency on the sideline, that it was very apparent, Adams said on Wednesday via ESPN. He said, quote, I played on teams that have winning culture, and just basically I took a moment to let them know I had reservations about speaking up too early and being too vocal too early, but I felt like in my mind I said, F that, because we don't have time. I have to do whatever I have to do to help the team moving forward. Aaron Rodgers said Devontae Adams gave the realest speech he has ever heard in a locker room. For a guy who has been there for 5 minutes, the Jets feel as close to falling apart as they have felt the entire time in this whole experiment. And again, I say miraculously, firing the coach didn't fix everything, even though I'm sure the fans in New York rejoiced and said, we got rid of the problem. Yes, let's go start winning. And then they couldn't put up more than 15 points against the Steelers.
Doesn't that sound familiar? You doing the Spider-Man meme right now? I mean, I'm not saying, that Robert Saleh and Mike Vrabel are parallels in that situation. Obviously not, but That hit me strikingly hard in the face, especially because Todd Downing is also there.
Well, no, it's very different because the Jets fired Robert Saleh, 6 games into the season?
And his side of the ball was the side of the ball doing its job, and Rodgers' side of the ball, not Todd Downing, not Nathaniel Hackett, is not doing its job. The Davante Adams trade, and I thought that this point has been made in a couple of different spots, so it's not an original thought, but I do agree with it. Amari Cooper to the Bills is a better trade than Davante Adams to the Jets. There is more that the Bills can do with Amari Cooper than the Jets can do with Davante Adams, because Davante Adams is not saving their season, nor is Amari Cooper saving the Bills' season, but for two franchises in the same division, their trajectories seem to be substantially different, even though both of them are trying a lot of the same things right now.
So as the Jets are on the brink of falling apart, Robert, can we hear from Aaron Rodgers on the state of the organization at the moment?
Well, has this year been harder than you thought it would be, just physically and getting the team all together and going in the right direction?
I mean, every year presents its own challenges, and thankfully we're not to the denouement of this season. You know, there's still a lot of time left. I think it's important that we all just stay as sanguine as possible. You know, it's a long season. There's a lot of ups and downs. We've had a lot of adversity already this season. We just got to stick together and get one and then start to build off of that.
All right, Bert, let's play a game. There's 2 words in there that Aaron Rodgers used, and I would like you to define both of them.
What is he doing?
Define to me denouement.
I did not know what denouement meant because I did not hear him say it. I took Greek and Latin vocab in college. Can't break that word down. I would probably have to hear him say it again. Is that possible?
Can I hear it in a sentence, please?
I mean, every year presents its own challenges, and thankfully we're not to the denouement of this season. You know, there's still a lot of time.
Okay, I would say breaking point or negative point of the season.
It's like the peak, like the crux of the
pinnacle.
story.
Yeah. Okay,
if
gotcha.
I remember correctly.
The resolution of a conflict.
If I remember my English and literature classes correctly, I believe it is the peak of the story arc.
Sanguine I am familiar with. I know that's being optimistic in bad times, or like Lil Uzi Vert has a song called Sanguine Paradise. That's where I learned that song from, if you were wondering.
The word?
Yes, correct.
Not the song.
Correct.
Okay.
I imagine.
Shout out Lil Uzi.
Did you think he just took that straight from Davante Adams' speech?
Probably.
You guys, we have to stay sanguine.
Can you imagine? What's the most ridiculous word that a person could use in a pregame or in some kind of football, like, get the locker room hype speech? Because sanguine has to be at the top of the list, Steve Harvey.
Is he just trolling Jets media, just trying to get them to print words that half their readers won't understand?
He's bored.
Yeah, I think he is.
He's bored. They're losing, and he's bored, and he's already got his buddy, so there's nothing else to be excited about this season except, maybe they go out there and continue to do what him and Alan Lazard have done all season, which is really the only person that he's been willing to throw to since Davante Adams got there.
He had that little Rodgers half smirk on his face the entire time he was spitting out those SAT words at the podium.
Turns out he's screwing with people. He enjoys it.
Mini headline that just came down. Adam Schefter tweeting the physical has passed. The trade is officially official. DeAndre Hopkins is a Kansas City Chief. Bryce Young's going to start this weekend for the Denver Broncos, and not in the way that I'm sure he would like to. Andy Dalton, I don't know if you saw this, got into a car accident, a multi-car crash with his entire family and dog in the car. Thankfully, everybody's okay. Everybody's healthy. But Dalton did sprain his thumb in the accident. So he's out, and Bryce Young comes back in for the Carolina Panthers to start this weekend against the Denver Broncos.
Now, I saw a couple of... So, one, it makes sense. Like, I've never been in a car wreck like that. Have you ever been in a car accident?
Fender benders.
Yeah, but not like an accident.
I, in the span of 2 months, got rear-ended 3 times this past summer.
Yeah, but you're also a terrible driver.
3 times. No, rear-ended, like stopped at a light.
I know. But perhaps that's the universe, just your karmic bad driving or your karma for bad driving.
It proves that things happen in threes, because I'm telling you, in a matter of weeks, when it happened the 3rd time, I screamed by myself in the car, what is going on?
That is also a fair response. But to the point of Bryce Young, there's a couple of schools of thought behind this, because one, like, if you've been in a legit car accident and if your family's in there, I would imagine there's some level of and also, he's dealing with a thumb injury, which would affect the quarterback's ability to do their job. So I would understand if they gave him a week off, but like, Andy, you know what? Take care of what you need to take care of. Make sure everybody's right. Make sure your kids aren't traumatized, because some of those, depending on the severity of the car accident, like those things could be traumatizing for sure. And also, could we see Bryce Young get moved before the deadline if he plays well? Plays well enough. Is there any school of thought to that whatsoever? Because I saw, I want to say it was Diane Ursini yesterday, put out something to that effect of, maybe if it's not the trade deadline, maybe at year's end, where I'm talking about, hey, at year's end, come hell or high water at this point. Even if he starts to show incremental improvement, I'm pro trading Levis. Carolina could do it at the deadline if they wanted to. They could also do it at the end of the year. Either way, they could give Bryce Young the opportunity to, hey, let's put some good stuff on tape out here, bud, and we'll find you a good landing spot in 2025.
The 2 games before the deadline for Carolina are in Denver this weekend and at home against the Saints.
Do any teams stick out to you guys as good landing spots for him?
For Bryce Young?
Correct.
Man, that's a tough one.
Miami was getting brought up, right? But Tua seems like he's on his way back, which was going to be my next headline.
Can't believe he's not wearing the Guardian cap.
Look, man, smarter people than us are talking to Tua about this stuff. There were reports that not a single medical professional encouraged him to retire or said that he should retire. So I'm going to stay away from the Tua stuff, saying what he should or shouldn't do.
Yeah,
he is on his way back, though. Tyreek Hill is rejoicing in the media, saying we're going to score on every drive.
Yeah, because he's tired of getting overthrown or underthrown.
So, Robert, everybody was saying Dolphins, right? But that, seems to go by the wayside now with Tua coming back.
What's a team that would make sense for Bryce Young? It's an excellent question.
I have 2 that I'd like to bring up to you guys. One would be the Rams. Sean McVay getting someone that can sit on the bench that's not going to drunk drive and be absent from the team for 4 weeks.
Is that what Stetson Bennett did?
I don't know. That hasn't been confirmed or not. But
you hit the regular speculation sound then in that case?
It's the Georgia connection.
Anyway, I assumed that's what it was because I read that. But the other case would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Sued.
They've got Trey Lance in there right now, but if you could swap Trey Lance out for another failed top pick, why would you not do it?
Trey Lance.
Dak potentially hitting the free agent market. Does Jerry want to pay him? Does Jerry not want to pay him?
No, Dak got paid.
Yeah, Dak got paid.
Dak got paid.
Oh, okay. Dak got paid. Well, while you're telling me I'm wrong, to no one's surprise, you were wrong when pronouncing denouement. It is actually the final part of a play, movie, or narrative in which strands of the plot are drawn together, matters are explained or resolved. Similar to the caller explained it to me as the grandpa telling the story at the end of the play, and that's why we buried the body next to the chemical plant. That's the denouement, not the climax.
I like that he was just sitting on it.
And he also told me that I mispronounced it when he meant that I got the definition wrong.
Well, either way, moving on. We have more headlines, don't we?
Yeah, you mentioned the Rams.
Look over here.
Rams play tonight. Rams.
Take your ass to the shadows. That was so egregious what you just did.
No.
Oh, I'm back.
Real quick, as we continue that detour, Robert and I were having this discussion this morning. Is Trey Lance the worst quarterback pick of the last decade, considering what they had to trade to move up to get him? To me, it makes it worse than Zach Wilson because the Jets didn't have to trade multiple first-rounders to go up and get Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, did start multiple games, and he's at least a backup now. Where
Is
Trey
he the
Lance,
worst, or did he just get hurt? Or
Stop.
are those
Stop.
the same thing? I mean, Bryce Young is not Bryce Young a conversation point there?
Yeah, Bryce Young is a conversation point there.
I mean, there's never been a number 1 overall pick that got benched as quickly by the team that drafted him than did Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young is the number 1 overall pick, and there was a trade that involved Bryce Young.
I know.
There as well.
Just interesting that arguably the most respected general manager right now in the NFL, and John Lynch, one of the most respected.
The tough thing with
made that pick.
With Bryce Young is everyone would have taken him number 1 overall.
True.
Everyone thought he was the best quarterback of the draft.
True.
Trey Lance kind of had an Anthony Richardson vibe where he had not played a lot of games, but he had the highest ceiling, the best tools, and everyone thought that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan would be able to bring the best out of him, which they weren't able to. They bet on themselves and failed. That's why I think it's a bad pick.
Yeah, it was some galaxy brain stuff to get the guy that played 1 game in college.
But John Lynch will get the benefit of the doubt because he's a great general manager, which he deserves.
Yeah, for sure. Tonight, the Rams host the Vikings. Thursday Night Football at SoFi Stadium. Rams are optimistic that Puka Nacua could return tonight after getting hurt in Week 1 with a knee injury that put him on IR.
I'm going to need you to say that again because Bert was in my ear with news that you already gave me.
The Rams are at home tonight against the Vikings. You can hear that game on 104.5 The
How do
Zone.
you screw up off the air, too?
Courtesy of Westwood One. What did you say?
This is a banger of a segment.
I just told him that if you guys, I should probably.
The D-Hop trade official.
I mean, for God's sakes. What's the headline?
Rams hosting the Vikings tonight. Listen to it on 104.5 The Zone. Westwood One coverage starts at 7, kickoff at 7:15, and the Rams are optimistic that Puka Nacua will make his first appearance since week 1.
So the Chiefs tried to trade for Cooper Kupp.
Nothing to see here.
Well, that's an interesting. What would have made more sense? Because Cooper Kupp in that offense is interesting. DeAndre Hopkins in that offense is interesting. But I don't know which one I would rather have seen. I mean, the Hopkins one is happening no matter what. What would Cooper Kupp be worth? I don't trust his health, though.
The big issue with him is the Rams were not willing to eat a large majority of his salary to fit underneath Kansas City's tight salary cap. So the trade would not have happened either way.
Why wouldn't they try and trade Stafford if they're going to trade anybody?
It's an interesting thought.
Isn't that, I mean, I know that's the Bleep Them Picks organization, so maybe they don't care about draft capital that way. I have no idea if that philosophy changes from year to year or if that's just their motto and they're sticking to it. But, like, why wouldn't Stafford have a market?
That is the rumor. After they played this week tonight on Thursday Night Football that you can hear right here on 104.5 The Zone, the rumor is that the Vikings and Rams would swap quarterbacks. Sam Darnold would go to be a Ram, and Matthew Stafford would go to the Vikings.
Now, wait, O'Connell was on that staff, wasn't he?
Correct.
Yeah, he worked, or him and Stafford go way back. So, they were on the, did they play together in Detroit?
They used to work out at Muscle Beach. I just made that up.
This is why I sent you to the shadows, because you've already started to peter out. You've already done 4 hours of radio today. We're getting the leftovers of whatever the hell is left back there.
Kevin O'Connell, who was born in Knoxville, by the way. I don't think I knew that.
VFL?
He was on the Lions in 2009 at practice squad when Stafford was the quarterback. But yeah, they have a relationship.
So what if that's like a higher-end Pittsburgh Steelers situation where you're looking at Justin Fields and you're saying, yeah, that's good enough, but the coach knows that he's missing things, right? Like, whether it's Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin, whoever is identifying that Justin Fields is leaving meat on the bone in that Steelers offense, says, yeah, Russell Wilson may be mid now. I mean, I know they haven't said that out loud, but like Russ might be mid, but he can still get us through parts of the passing game that Justin Fields is clearly and obviously missing on. What if this is just a higher-end version of the Pittsburgh Steelers situation? They look at Darnold, they say, yeah, Darnold, good enough. I mean, it would be tough to swap that guy out, given the success that you're having.
So I'm saying,
bring in Stafford.
What if he has a good performance tonight against Matt Stafford and the Rams, and suddenly you're 6-1, and you're looking at it like, do we really want to toy with this now?
Did you watch that Minnesota-Detroit game? I've watched it like 3 times this week just because the Titans are playing the Lions. That was such a fun game.
Oh, yeah. Back and forth. I mean, shootout between two contenders.
Also, when did Khalif Raymond become this like route-running god? He put Stephon Gilmore on his ass on a route in ways that I have never seen Khalif Raymond do. Titans legend.
Hey, Khalif Raymond did some good things here.
No, he was a big part of that playoff run.
Stephon Gilmore's kind of had a pernicious effect to that Vikings defense this year.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
What's it mean?
Phenomenal stuff.
What's it mean?
Pernicious is having a harmful effect. I don't have it pulled up.
Well done.
Coming up next, what can the Vols accomplish during the bye week? Vandy is hosting Texas, but Tennessee gets some time to recuperate, to relax, and to try and address some things that may have been bogging them down in the first half of games. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Men, do not go through irreversible surgery to treat erectile dysfunction before you have talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. The Tennessee Men's Clinic specializes in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do. It makes them the experts in the field. They have access to multiple protocols and options to treat your ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. Don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you are out of options. We want you to understand all your options when it comes to treating ED. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone to ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. The bottom line is no one has more expertise and experience in successfully treating men's sexual health issues than the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and they are passionate about what they do. So schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hatty B's Hot Chicken. Titans are back on the practice field later today. We're going to rehash some quarterback trade deals since we're talking about Bryce Young. We've mentioned Will Levis, players that could be moved at season's end. But in the meantime, let's stick with the Vols. Vols are off this weekend. They're coming off the big high of a win against Alabama. A little lingering. Did you smoke a cigar in the Nashville SC booth? Did you have one hidden under the console there while you were calling the last regular season soccer game?
No, I had to enjoy one later that night.
Did you actually?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I didn't take you for a cigar smoker, but I guess
Not
you
much
don't
of
have
one.
to be a cigar smoker.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Right.
Because you saw many people in the crowd at Tennessee thoroughly uneducated about how to both light and smoke cigars.
Stop inhaling, folks.
Yeah.
The problem with smoking cigars is I feel like everybody feels like they got to smoke them big dog turds. Like, not everybody is Ron Slay. Not everybody has the capacity.
Well, not everybody is 6'9". It looks proportional with Slay.
Right, to pull it off. Like,
Yeah,
you can
Slay
smoke.
looks like he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, Slay's got like it's like a dainty little thing in his hands.
You can smoke Romeo and Juliet. You can smoke the little pinky size one. You don't have. Everybody's like, oh, I got to look like Boss Hogg out there. I got to have a big wedding ring around mine. You don't. You can smoke a little one. If you ain't a big dog yet, that's fine. If you're scared, say you're scared.
I used to love cigars. That's probably why I sound like this.
But it's great that Tennessee does not play this weekend to just be able to bask in that win. And also, Tennessee went into the bye week after a really emotional win in Oklahoma a few weeks ago, right? We thought that was a good thing for them, that they got a week to take a beat and not let the emotions of that Oklahoma win, hypo going back to Norman, carry over. But then they lost out of the bye week. So now they go into their second bye week after the emotional win of coming back to beat Alabama in the third Saturday in October. Now you can't let it bite you in the butt against Kentucky.
Well, yeah, I'm interested because Kentucky feels like another Arkansas, doesn't it? Like a potential Arkansas.
Well, they're reeling right now, though, I will say. Kentucky
for sure.
They looked dreadful in
Vanderbilt
in
broke them
Gainesville.
just like they broke Bama. Fools.
They're having the weirdest season in the SEC. I mean,
Yeah, but the SEC is having a weird season.
It is,
Like I know that Mark Stoops is coming off the year where he tried to dip and go to Texas A&M, and now he's making comments about, well, I wish we had Vandy's NIL mobilization or something like that, which makes absolutely no damn sense.
I think those comments might have been fake. I think we might have got.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Well, no, don't make it. Well, you just made it because I thought it was true.
No, what's mine is yours. What's yours is mine.
Yeah? Since when?
So they were a play away from beating Georgia at home. They get blown out by South Carolina at home. They upset Ole Miss on the road, completely neutralized one of the most electric offenses in college football on the road. And then they get dog walked by Florida, who is a resurgent. You got to give Billy Napier credit. He's got his team fighting. They have not just folded like it looked like they were on the path towards, but Kentucky's had a weird year. They're going to go into a night game environment in Knoxville a week from Saturday.
We're trying to go, right? The three of us?
I'd love to go.
How much have you been peppering the sales staff about trying to grift free tickets?
I think all of my emails are going straight to spam.
He literally said, I'm going to follow up with Dave, who runs the sales staff downstairs today, when he had literally just peppered Dave in the break room whilst eating free food that Dave and his staff provided to him on his fourth plate, saying, hey, through crumbs that are being spewed out of his mouth. You got those Kentucky tickets for us?
Dave, if you're listening, your hair looks good today.
He smells fantastic, too.
Why are you getting close enough to smell that man?
You have to get close enough to smell him to hug him.
Anyway, if you ever try to hug me. I am curious about one thing, though. Because what's the biggest thing that has to be fixed here?
Oh, first half offense.
First half offense.
Get off to better starts, which was a staple of the Josh Heupel era, first quarter scoring.
Mowing them down and then just you're leaning on the run game that your offense is built around and having the ability to do both and being effective at both, especially at the peak. And I know that nothing... I don't know if we will ever see something like the Hendon Hooker, Josh Heupel situation. Like you hope, you project Nico is the more talented player. You want him to eventually achieve those heights. It's not unthinkable because you've seen it been done, but it's a really, really high standard, high bar to put on this. Here's the thing though, like the first half offense is a product of the quarterback in the first half. And if we're talking about potential breakthrough moment for Nico Iamaleava, I always struggle with this, especially like with college basketball, or yet obviously we've just gone through the postseason in baseball. When you have a layoff, anytime a team has a bye, any kind of rest, where you feel like you've figured something out in your most recent performance, and you're trying to build upon that performance, but then you have to take a break. Now, obviously, football season. You're trying to get healthy. Health is the most important thing. But I'm of two schools of thought on this to say, yeah, it's good for them to catch their breath here a little bit. The road date at Georgia is the biggest challenge, but you can't afford to sleep on a Kentucky team, especially at home, especially when you just struggled at home in the first half. Wouldn't it almost be better, though, if they were playing this weekend and building upon that performance? Because I almost feel like I'm more leaning that direction with a young quarterback who is saying, yeah, that the injury woke me up, started to settle in a little bit, looked better in the second half, saw him do more of the things that we expect Nico Iamaleava to be able to execute, that he was doing at the start of the season. It doesn't matter because they're going to be on a bye, but it's just in the back of my head.
I don't know how they look for solutions. Maybe they put a 3-up on the scoreboard during practice from here on out. Say it's the third quarter throughout the course of practice. Maybe they
just hold up their threes.
But yeah, exactly. But on a serious note, maybe they get Nico a little more involved in the run game earlier for him to, as weird as it is to say, take some of those hits to loosen up, to get into the rhythm of the game. That felt like it benefited him against Alabama. The thing is, they're so close. Tennessee, and it's not just Nico. Again, when Nico was on target in the first half, it felt like receivers weren't helping him. And then he was off target. And then he was on target and they weren't helping him. It was a beat or two off on multiple plays with receivers running scot-free behind the Alabama secondary. And Alabama's got secondary issues without a doubt. Issues that, Georgia doesn't have as much of.
Alabama's got defensive issues top to bottom.
Yeah, they've got some just fundamental base level issues that we didn't see under Nick Saban, but they're close. And if you just hit on 2 or 3 of those in the first half, I mean, it's a very different ball game going into the second with Tennessee having a multi-score lead. So they are that close, and that's obviously going to be the focus throughout the course of the bye week. And you look down the stretch, and the path to the playoff has been repaved, so to speak, where you're back to where you thought you would be after the Bama game, right? If you told any Tennessee fan before the season, you're going to have one loss going into that second bye after Bama week, everybody would say, all right on schedule, right? Here we go. The path to the playoff is there. You could lose to Georgia and still get in. But Tennessee slipped up against Arkansas. Where could that slip up come? We understand the challenge that Georgia is going to be. We get that. But between Kentucky at home, Mississippi State at home, and Vanderbilt on the road, which one of those 3 matchups would you see being the biggest opportunity for a slip up for Tennessee?
Kind of Vandy.
It's Vandy.
You're right.
It is, man. I mean, Kentucky's coming.
How scary is that for you? Butch Jones PTSD.
Kentucky's coming to Neyland reeling, right? And Kentucky, I think, plays this weekend. They play Auburn at home this weekend, so great chance for a bounce back for an Auburn team that is also reeling. But they're going to be going into a buzzsaw.
Turning the ball over. It's like watching the Titans.
Can't. Neyland at night. I think Tennessee's going to be ready for Kentucky. Mississippi State is dreadful. They've played better in recent weeks. They're 1-6, 0 in the SEC. You're going to Vanderbilt, and there probably will still be more Tennessee fans in the building than Vandy fans. It's just always the case. But you're going to Vanderbilt needing a win to get into the playoff if you are to lose to Georgia. And Vanderbilt is going to be doing everything in their power to stop that from happening. I mean, that is going to be the biggest moment of Vanderbilt's season at the end of the year, especially if they're playing for bowl eligibility and knocking Tennessee out of the playoff. That team's going to be ready. Clark Lee's going to have them prepared. I also am willing to say that the Vanderbilt game is the biggest non-Georgia challenge left on the schedule.
Wow. I mean, you're right, though. That's where this season is heading. Now, I want Vandy to look competitive. I don't think, I'm not going to dismiss them the way that Lucas did because, and to be completely honest, I, of course, would have dismissed them against Alabama as well. Any sane and rational person would have done so. Nobody expected Vanderbilt to go out there and literally out-physical Alabama in that game on West End a couple of weeks ago. But this Vandy team, they could make your life difficult.
It's a good football team. It just is.
That's such great juice for rivalry week, which is such a hard phrase for me to say. We'll take your phone calls if you want to get involved. 615-737-1045, the number. Also, quarterback trade deals. What's the precedent for moving a player like Bryce Young or Will Levis at the end of the season? We'll talk about it coming up next. grounded theory.
11 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans made some moves on Wednesday, trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs for a fifth-round pick that could become a fourth-rounder in 2025. That move is now official in Kansas City. The Titans also dealt linebacker Ernest Jones IV to Seattle in exchange for linebacker Jerome Baker and a fourth-round pick. The Titans traveled to Detroit on Sunday. Calvin Ridley did not practice with a foot injury Wednesday. L'Jarius Sneed did not practice with a quad, and Will Levis was limited with the shoulder injury. Thursday Night Football is in L.A. tonight. The Rams host the Vikings at SoFi Stadium. Kickoff at 7:15. Westwood One coverage starts on The Zone at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
No blown gaskets today, all quiet on the trade front. We got phone calls to take. We got QB trades to talk about. Welcome into the second hour. We got Bert, Lucas, and me till 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you can join the conversation. Some of you have been waiting patiently. We will involve you here in just a moment. F&M Bank Chat is where you can keep yourself entertained. In the meantime, they seem to be doing their own show on any given day. I haven't stuck my face into the acid bath that is our live stream chat today, but they're currently debating that the Titans should draft Diego Pavia and just run the triple option because why not?
Wouldn't that be so funny to see an NFL team just say, you know what? Bleep it.
That's what the Dolphins did against the Patriots, right? That's like the one time that they foiled Bill Belichick. Who was the coach of the Dolphins when they ran that triple option?
Philbin?
No, it was pre-Philbin, I want to say. Who was the guy that buried the football as a means of like restarting their season? I think he did that as like a Raiders interim coach or something like that. I believe this person has since passed on, so I don't want to screw the name up. Bert's looking at the internet like he might have an answer. Either way, we don't have to relitigate that today. What we will relitigate are 3 trades, because I said, was this Monday or Tuesday, when I decided that I had seen enough of the Will Levis experiment and that I'm completely fine to trade him in the offseason?
I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, I was hoping for some feedback.
It does not matter.
Other than just a blank stare back at me.
It's a meaningless fact whether it was Monday or Tuesday.
Either way, I'm ready to trade Will Levis in the offseason, and I cited the precedent of 3 teams that did a similar thing in the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Washington Commanders, with 3 quarterbacks that they moved prior to this season beginning. Would you like to relitigate those trades today?
Yeah, there were some interesting parallels there because a lot of these teams drafted a quarterback. 2 of the 3 that you're talking about were not first-round picks, like Will Levis.
Tony Sperano, Bert just said him.
Tony Sperano, wow.
R.I.P.
And for the most part...
He is dead, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I
in
didn't just kill
2018.
him. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Good night, sweet prince.
Yep.
And 2 of these 3 played sparingly their rookie year, and then their second year, they were handed the keys, said, okay, all right, show us what you got. And it went into a bit of a tailspin, and they traded him. And those 2 players are Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell.
Yep.
So let's start there, because Will Levis is in year 2. He played sparingly his rookie year, and then in year 2, they gave him the keys and said, show us what you got. So Sam Howell, drafted in the 5th round in 2022, so obviously not nearly as high as 33, which is where Levis was drafted.
Who was the other quarterback? Heineke?
Heineke. Oh, did Howell? Was Heineke in Washington when Howell got drafted?
Bert is not a
No,
guess.
Heineke...
Heineke, I think, might have been in Atlanta.
Yeah, Heineke came in for Ridder. Like, Heineke played here when the Falcons were here. I guess Ridder played in that game, too. Wasn't that the weird, he left with the weird concussion thing, but we
Arthur
thought it was
Smith
for
said
performance.
he didn't bench him, all these other things, yeah.
Anyway, Sam Howell, drafted by Washington in 2022 in the 5th round, played in only 1 game his rookie year. He played in all 17 in 2023. They handed him the keys. He completed 63% of his passes for just under 4,000 yards. There were large stretches last season where Howell was the NFL's leading passer in terms of yardage. but he finished the season with 3,946 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions.
Jake Brisket was the starter.
Ah, yes. And Washington ended up, obviously, with the number 2 overall pick, which they used to take Jaden Daniels. That's looking pretty good. So they traded Sam Howell to the Seattle Seahawks. They traded Howell and a 4th and 6th rounder to Seattle in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th round pick.
Now, to equal that compensation, it made a lot of sense because Sam Howell led the league in passing yards. Despite being sacked a lot, there was a lot of promise from him.
Did he finish? He didn't finish as the league leader.
I don't think he finished.
But yeah, for long stretches of the season, he did
at
lead the
various
league.
points because Tua obviously was up there.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, he did show, but here's the thing. Here's the parallel. Let's just do Howell and Levis first. You could have talked yourself into, if you wanted to, you could have talked yourself into trying to do something around Sam Howell, right? You looked at Sam Howell and said, yeah, I can play. I can play a little bit. Maybe it's just the things that surround him that's leading to these. I mean, I don't know how many one-score losses they were in last year off the top of my head, but you could have looked at Sam Howell as a 5th-round pick and said, okay, maybe something. Maybe what was the giraffe? What's the giraffe neck? Davis Mills.
Yeah, Davis Mills.
They had a moment where they tried to talk themselves into Davis Mills. The Texans have done this a couple of times. Like they're the Tom Savages of the world. You remember that guy running around out there? Anyway.
So Sam Howell finished 54 yards short of a 4,000-yard passing season. He also led the league in attempts and interceptions with 21.
Mm-hmm. And he had a couple lost fumbles.
Would that have made him the leading passer in Titans franchise history? Because they've never had a 4,000-yard passer.
He was 12th in the league last year. He also
close.
led the league in sacks with 65.
Oh, God.
Well,
65 sacks?
The next closest was Bryce Young with 62.
So Sam Howell was not disastrous, right? He did some good things. He also turned the ball over a lot, and ultimately the decision was he ain't our quarterback of the future. Let's go draft somebody with a new GM, new coach, and the number 2 overall pick. So they packaged a 4th and 6th with Howell to Seattle, where he is currently backing up Geno in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th. That's Sam Howell. Desmond Ridder, also drafted in 2022, a 3rd-round pick by the Falcons out of Cincinnati. Played in only 4 games his rookie year, played in 15 games in 2023. 64% of his passes completed, 2,836 yards, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 7 lost fumbles. Last year for Atlanta, he was traded to Arizona for Rondale Moore in just a straight-up trade. Depth receiver for depth quarterback. He was quickly cut by the Cardinals, and Desmond Ridder currently is with the Raiders. He was just signed by the Raiders this week.
He had a very, side note, he had a very touching thing about his daughter asking him about where he was going, and, Dad's going to go try and keep his NFL dream alive, and this whole thing. It was very, very nice.
Yeah.
He also looks like he got electrocuted. What happened to his hair?
His hair is, yes, it's just rising higher and higher.
Well, it's going backwards and up.
Yeah, like yours. So that's Desmond Ridder.
That was so mean.
He goes to Arizona in exchange for just Rondale Moore. Now, you mentioned Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was a 1st-round pick. So
start wearing a headband like LeBron.
One of these things is not like the other, right? Kenny Pickett was the number 20 overall pick in what was a weak quarterback class drafted by the Steelers right there in his backyard. Played his college ball at Pitt, and he starts his NFL career in Pittsburgh. His rookie year, remember, they threw him right into the fire. He started 12 games. He completed 63% of his passes for over 2,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And then he had a great preseason before 2023. Remember what we were talking about with Kenny Pickett in the preseason? MVP candidate? Right. 12 starts for Pickett in 2023. 62% completion percentage. Just over 2,000 yards passing. 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. And then he played in 1 game for Pittsburgh. He's played in 1 game for Philly this year because he was traded to Philly along with a 2024 4th rounder in exchange for a 2024 3rd rounder and 2 2025 7th round picks.
They should absolutely do a deal like this. If a deal out is there to be found, right?
And he had that 1st round pick tag on him, Kenny Pickett, right? Ridder and Howell did not.
And we understand what that quarterback draft was. That's the Malik Willis draft as well, where Malik, is being talked about after the Senior Bowl as potentially the first quarterback off the board. He falls to pick, what was he, 100?
86, I thought. I thought 86. It was 3rd round.
Yes, he was a 3rd round pick. I couldn't remember. Yeah, he was 86, you're right. But weak quarterback class, one of them was going to go in the first round. It ended up being Pickett, then Ritter, then Malik later. If the Titans can get any kind of value like that to recoup the third-round pick that they gave up for Snead at this point, because they also gave up a third-round pick in the trade-up for Levis, I would do one of those deals in a heartbeat.
And the Titans have, a couple extra fourth-rounders now. So Pickett was shipped to Philly with a fourth-round pick in exchange for a 3 and 2 7s. So
the bones are there.
One that we haven't mentioned is Drew Lock, who, like Levis, was a second-round pick in 2019. Lock started 5 games his rookie year in Denver. He started 13 his second year in 2020. They gave him more of an opportunity. He completed 57% of his passes, just under 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. And then they kept him around for another year, and he was in a competition with Teddy Bridgewater. He started only 3 games in 2021. That's kind of a separate one, though, because they traded him to Seattle. He was part of the massive Russell Wilson trade. So I guess that wouldn't really apply to this conversation.
No, because there was all kinds of players in that trade. There was also all kind of picks in that trade.
Although the discussion around Locke, not too dissimilar from Levis, right? Like, maybe a first-round pick. He falls to the second round, the big arm. Locke put up better numbers in college than Levis did at Kentucky. But yeah, that's beside the point because he was part of that massive Russell Wilson trade, unique situation. So Howell, Ritter, and Pickett are the 3 quarterback deals we can look at in terms of teams giving a guy a shot in his second year, determining he is not the answer. Let's see what we can get.
The 3 of us are in agreement, right, that they should move him?
I don't think they should outright move him before the trade deadline.
No, not the trade deadline, obviously. No, I'm talking about this is the year's end.
Oh, for sure.
Year's end.
Yeah, if the answer looks like what it looks like, then yes, 100%. You see what you can get for him. If you're going to move on and try to find a new quarterback, and Brian Callahan in earnest will choose his quarterback of the Titans, what reason is there, right? To keep
listen,
Will Levis?
I'm on this. This is the train that I am steadfastly on. I mean, I'm not to say that my opinion is completely formed on him, right? Because I do think that you should always allow yourself to adjust for new information. So whenever he gets back in the lineup, doesn't sound like it's going to be against Detroit, right? It sounds like it's going to be Mason Rudolph, though they haven't officially made that determination. Say the unthinkable happens and he has, a not like incremental, a substantial breakthrough. Then I think you should have the opportunity to reevaluate to see if it's sustainable at that point. All right, let's throw him out there again. Do it again, right? Do it again. Show me that you can consistently operate this system and play quarterback the way that this structure is set up for you to play quarterback. And if not, we'll try to find you a nice landing spot. Because Kenny Pickett is probably best served as a backup to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a good situation. Now, Ritter obviously was more of a just cut bait. We got Rondale Moore off the books. We tried to make something work for a backup quarterback because that was the year that Kyler started the year healthy, right? Kyler was healthy at the start of this year?
At the start of this year?
Start of this year, was Kyler available?
Yeah.
I thought there was something to do with Kyler Murray's injury in the Desmond Ritter thing, but that's not right. And for Sam Howell, he can turn into a serviceable backup.
Yeah, and Ritter got into a competition with Clayton Tune to be the backup to Murray.
That's right.
And he lost.
Okay.
And they cut him.
That's right.
Sam Howell is the backup to Geno.
Levis, I think, would benefit from being a backup. And there's nothing to say that he can't Geno Smith his way through, future seasons or something like that, or be a Sam Darnold kind of rehabilitation project. I mean, how many teams, though, did it take to get Sam Darnold right, we think? Is this his 5th team? Has Sam Darnold been on 5 different NFL teams, I want to say?
Jets, Rams, Panthers, Niners, Vikings.
Was he a Ram?
For about 5 minutes, right?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Oh, no, he wasn't a Ram. My fault. I'm getting Baker's in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Take the Rams out. This is his 4th.
4th. But still, I'm almost content to let somebody else figure out the quarterback or try and figure out the quarterback and then go out and pay a veteran stopgap like the Tannehill thing worked, And I know that Tannehill had a clear and obvious ceiling that people don't want to relive. But that to me is the more efficient way to fix the quarterback situation than go into 2 more years of trying to figure out another rookie just to decide, I don't know, let's move him again. With the way that teams are churning through NFL quarterbacks, I'd rather get a guy who's seen a couple of things rather than drop a rookie into this mess. But I don't know.
Again, it's that vicious cycle. Sometimes teams draft quarterbacks that need 6 years to click. teams don't have 6 years to find out about their quarterback.
No, they do. They just don't want to. They just don't want to do it that way. Owners don't want to do it that way. Understandably so. 615-737-1045, the number. We'll take more of your phone calls on this coming up next. Also, what we can learn about the Titans wide receivers without DeAndre Hopkins. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hatty B's Hot Chicken. So, the show, collectively, is in favor of trading Will Levis at the end of the season. Now, Will Levis is going to speak today. Normally, he talks on Wednesdays. But they have moved both his media availability and Mason Rudolph's media availability today. Levis is going to speak at the podium. Mason Rudolph is going to address us at his locker. So I'll slide on over there after the radio show and see what both quarterbacks have to say about the situation, given that things are trending towards Mason Rudolph with Will Levis still recovering from injury. But the thought process, if you're just now joining us, is most of you, and it seems the coaching staff, though that they haven't publicly admitted that, nor should they, by the way. Like, nobody expects Brian Callahan to come up to the podium and be like, yeah, you guys know what, this Levis guy's not it. It's not just not doing it for me. All right. So we're probably going to sit him. We're probably going to ride this thing out with Mason. We'll sell a couple of parts off in between and we'll see where we go. It's not going to happen. But at a certain point, it's almost like the same principle as why Lucas was down on him coming out of college. When you watch him, is he good at what he's being asked to do? Like, good. And he was a fine college quarterback. But was he one of the best college quarterbacks? Like, did he produce at a rate like Bo Nix at Oregon? Or C.J. Stroud at Ohio State? Or Bryce Young at Alabama? Like, all these different things. Like, what do your eyes tell you? Because sometimes you can apply advanced analytics and the data metrics and all these other things, counting stats, whatever. But you also watch these things every week, and you have to try and find a balance between, okay, am I talking myself into this just because I want it to be so? Because sure, I'm sure many of you wanted Will Levis to succeed. He has not to date. Doesn't mean that he's going to be a career failure. It's like Malik, right? Doesn't mean that Malik Willis, just because he wasn't good here, can't be good elsewhere. You saw that firsthand this season. But for right now, Will Levis is not the answer. That's why we are in favor, and I don't want to, pin this opinion on the two of you if it's just my opinion, but I think that they should move him in the offseason. And we went through the 3 trades last offseason of 3 quarterbacks that got moved by different organizations, because they said, yeah, you know what? This ain't it. Let's keep it moving. There is some degree of, well, is that fair to the player? No, probably not, but that's what the NFL is right now. Is it fair to, take DeAndre Hopkins out of the locker room for the other 52 players that really like DeAndre Hopkins? No, but that's football. So we'll take your feedback on this, but the precedent is Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Sam Howell last offseason being moved for a variety of different things and also needing to be packaged with a couple of other things. But there is trade value to be recouped there. And right now, you understand that the Titans are currently ahead of the trade deadline. We're not saying trade Levis before the deadline, saying at the end of the season. There's reason to believe that that would also help fuel this clear and obvious rebuild that they are efforting at this point by trading away DeAndre Hopkins and trading away Ernest Jones IV. By the way, those trades just made official by the Titans. Kansas City did make the DeAndre Hopkins announcement earlier today, but the Titans have just confirmed both trades from their official account. 615-737-1045 is the number. F&M Bank chat also at your disposal. Dylan Elam says on YouTube, I really don't think anybody's in the market for Levis, but think about it. Are they in the market for a backup quarterback? I'm not saying Sam Howell and Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett are not starting at their respective spots. These are trades for backup quarterbacks that are more cost-effective than paying Andy Dalton or paying Sam Darnold or paying whomever else. It can keep you cap compliant for a team that's already got a veteran quarterback, and one of these young guys can sit behind him. Levis is not young. He's going to be 26 before next season, but he's inexperienced enough to where it would make sense, and they're still, 2 years of team control on that second-round draft pick contract beyond this year?
Jeremy Fowler just tweeted, Will Levis considered a long shot for Sunday, Week 9 return, more likely.
Yeah, and that's was the information that Brian Callahan provided on Monday as well. So just reaffirming where they are at right now. He didn't throw yesterday, by the way. He was out there at practice. We saw him on the field, but he's just standing there watching things, and he handed off to the running backs a couple of times.
Fowler did say Levis's grade 2 AC sprain affected his throwing 2 weeks ago against the Colts. So the team wants to give him ample rest. He will ramp up his practice activity over the next few weeks. So barring a surprise, Rudolph starting for the second straight week.
Yeah, same thing Callahan said Monday. 615-737-1045. If you want to jump in, what are your thoughts on this situation? Let's go to Clayton up next. Hey, Clayton.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Not much.
I want to give the guy a chance, man, but I'm just not seeing any improvement. And, I mean, for everything that we've done in the offseason, he should be showing some improvement or some consistency other than throwing the team the other ball. I mean, I've been a Titans fan since they've been here, man. I'm just absolutely lost. Even if we do lose every game the rest of the year, who do we pick out of that draft, man? And, I mean, you got to still get a right tackle figured out for whoever you do draft. Like, I'm just, as a fan, I am lost. Go Vols.
Yeah, that's the appropriate response right now, Clayton. Thank you for the call. If they have a top 5 pick, they are going to take a quarterback this year. You can almost guarantee it. Now, you can't 100% guarantee it. But if they're in the top 5, they're probably going to take a quarterback. There is some school of thought to pursuing the veteran quarterback market. But, again, during the offseason, we'll start talking about those names. It's too soon to do stuff like that while we're still in the middle of the season. But to your point about giving Will Levis a chance, I think you have. I mean, he got more of a chance than Malik. Is the standard so much different for Malik Willis than it was for Will Levis than it should have been for Malik Willis? I don't think so. Like, there were ample opportunities given. Will Levis got more of them. Will Levis got given the job. And like, that all made sense. It all made sense at the time. I'm not disputing any of those things, but the chances have been given. And now it's time to see if you can't cut bait and do better.
Do you still worry about the locker room if they continue to play Levis and he continues to play poorly?
To an extent. I mean, to some extent.
But is there enough separation between Levis and Rudolph for that to be a legitimate point of fracture in the locker room? Like, I could see it in Indianapolis, where at some point Colts players are like, hey, man, just put in Flacco, please. Like, we can make the playoffs with this thing. But is there enough separation? I know Rudolph doesn't do a lot of the dumb mistakes, but it's not like, and I know they were efficient in the first half against Buffalo. So maybe if Rudolph puts together a complete performance against Detroit, we have that conversation. But is there that much separation between Levis and Rudolph in terms of actually giving you a better chance to win that it would cause division in the locker room?
Up
because
here,
I don't know.
I mean, I'm pointing at my head for the radio audience, but yeah, up here.
Guys are still going to show up and do their jobs.
I'm not disputing that, but you want the best possible chance every time you run out there. And to your point, like, there's not such a huge degree of separation between the two of them, because I think, honestly, obviously, the ceiling is higher for Levis than it is for Rudolph. But can you trust him? That's the whole thing. Can you trust him as a teammate that he's going to put you out there in the best possible position to succeed? You don't think Carson Wentz caused some locker room fractures on the way out the door? I mean, hell, he was causing fractures between the coach and the ownership and everything else. Apparently, it was a bit of a pill.
Yeah, that's just a totally different situation. The most parallel situation to this,
that different,
in terms of just the quarterback, is why is it not? Why is Carson Wentz at all similar to this situation? I know as a player, you could draw some similarities between Wentz and Levis, but what I don't understand what the situation with Wentz and the Eagles, how that would be at all similar to Levis and the Titans.
Oh, I'm more thinking about the player.
Yeah, no, you could definitely draw comparisons there with the turnovers and all of that.
Yeah.
But the most parallel quarterback situation is in Indy. Second-year player who clearly isn't ready, but they got to find out, so they keep trotting him out there. It's just a backup. Indisputably gives them a much better chance to win. That is a place where I could see at some point the veterans in that locker room, like, I know publicly they were behind Anthony Richardson and they won.
Because they have a winning record. The Colts have a winning record.
Right. So they are still winning games.
I saw somebody in the chat yesterday say the Colts and the Titans aren't that much further off. No,
the Colts are winning games. They beat the Dolphins with Anthony Richardson last week. Yeah, and then he's won another game. But I wonder if they string together a few losses and quarterback play is a big reason. And at some point, it's like, listen, Flacco obviously gives us a much better chance.
They've already played Green Bay. Who do the Colts have? Oh, the Colts have the Texans. The Texans are at Houston this weekend. So that is an interesting game to keep an eye on.
How about this? It goes at Houston, at Minnesota, at home against Buffalo their next 3 weeks.
Ooh, Anthony Richardson against those three. I don't know. Let's go to Hudson next.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So, I'm not seeing too many dissimilarities between, especially because we're playing Detroit this weekend, but I'm thinking about Detroit back in, I think it was 2021 when they hired Dan Campbell and they won 3 games their first year. But the difference is they had Jared Goff. And I know they got rid of Stafford because they probably wanted to change the scenery and some things like that. But
And also
I like
they got
the idea
picks.
you guys are talking about. For what?
They also got picks out of that. That was a big part of the Stafford deal.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing that they did right was they chose what direction they were going in, and that was a full rebuild. They invested in their offensive line. They invested in their defense. And now they have a powerful team, and they were able to take some pretty good picks the last 2 years where they could, get a running back, they could get a tight end. Laporte's been awesome. So they can take those risks that we've tried to take, but we're investing so much in the quarterback. I like what you guys are saying about you got to get an established guy who's in there that is just going to manage the game. And then at that point, you can start building around him and know he's not going to throw the ball away the way Levis does and isn't giving us a chance to win. Because I believe if we had a competent quarterback, we'd be 4-1.
Thank you for the call, Hudson. 60 seconds on the clock before the Oscars music, but the point is well made. Here's the thing about the Lions that you like, and tell me how this hits you too. They knew what they wanted to be from the jump, and I'm looking at a Titans team that is throwing stuff at a wall every week to try and just see what sticks. Like, what is the identity? I mean, the Titans have a solid ground game, but what was the direction, or what is the direction? What is the identity of this team? Do we know what Brian Callahan wants to be on offense? We know what they are, but what do they want to be? What is the vision, the collaboration, all these buzzwords that people use? Brad Holmes got some heat for drafting. Wasn't Jack Campbell also a first-round pick, the linebacker that they have? Jack Campbell and Jameer Gibbs. So those are two non-premium positions that they take in the first round, and people are panning the Lions and saying, "Oh, well, they don't know what they're doing. Look at the wasted value here, or what was the term that we used around Tavondre Sweat? The opportunity cost." But they knew and that was towards the end or towards the peak of the cycle, right? They were cycling up. They were adding a few different pieces and parts here, but they got criticized pretty hard out of that draft. But those two players are fundamentally a part of what they want to be. Now, Jameer Gibbs is obviously a better player for what he does than Jack Campbell is for what he does, but still, like, there was an established identity. That's the idea of the collaboration that you want. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell having that shared vision and moving in that direction. Now, can Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker accomplish that post-Levis? Sure, that's possible.
I think it's less Brian Callahan blindly throwing darts and more he's not capable of playing the way he wants to play. Brian Callahan's been on record. We played the audio. He was still the offensive coordinator of the Bengals, of him talking about the team that throws the football the best is most often going to be the most successful in the NFL. That is Brian Callahan, and we were all rejoicing. Oh, somebody that understands the state of offense in the NFL and what it takes to win in the modern NFL. I don't think Brian Callahan came in with visions of, no, the run game is our biggest strength, and we're going to lean on the run game, and that's what we do.
Oh, sure.
That's what the Titans have been doing for the last few years, right?
No,
this is all about a departure from that. I think he's been handcuffed to that.
Literally what I just said. He knew they had an idea of what this thing was going to be, and then it's not, and then they've had to figure out something else that they are solid at. They're not a great running football team. They're a solid running football team because that's the thing that they do best right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're capable of playing to the identity on offense that he wants to play with.
How about Kyle in Nashville up next?
What's up, guys? Happy Friday Eve.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple things. As far as Levis goes, he's obviously not it. When it comes to fixing or figuring out the quarterback position, in my personal opinion, I think finding a veteran to be sort of a stopgap quarterback until Callahan can draft his guy, whether that's next year or the year after. Somebody like Matthew Stafford, who's on a slowly deteriorating Rams team, or Jacoby Brissett, who just lost his job, and even somebody he's familiar with from Cincinnati. I think I would take Jake Browning as a 1 or 2 year starter until he can get his guy in. I also don't think that our quarterback is in this next draft. I'm not a huge fan of the translation that, the guys in this draft make to the pro level. I'm obviously not a scout, though, so take that with a grain of salt. But I'm just curious as to who you guys see as a potential veteran trade
before he tailed off, sounded like he was asking who the veteran that we would be interested in. And as we've said, we're gonna look into that more in the offseason. I saw somebody in the F&M Bank chat. Also, I thought we did him wrong there. I thought we did not reciprocate his Friday Eve energy, and now I feel bad.
Okay, but let me do a little. We're going to do a little caller boot camp here. Everyone on the show is doing great. Yes, we can hear you. Get to your point.
No, don't
That's
do
not
that.
about Kyle. That's about everybody. Everybody does this. Hey, guys, how you doing? We're great. We're all great. We're working our dream jobs.
Stop.
Don't ask how we're doing anymore. We're doing fan-freaking-tastic.
It's just a nice thing to say.
You're not a nice person. You do not deserve
but that's
that.
the one.
now you want the pleasantries.
No, that's the one place that I'm willing to extend courtesy, because if they do say something dumb, I know I'm going to rip their head off on a call. Like I don't think I tee off on callers that often.
Okay, that's my second least favorite. My least favorite is, can you guys hear me? If I hear, can you guys hear me? Nope. Click. You're getting hung up on.
Not anymore.
I'm setting the precedent right now. If you say, can you hear me? Not anymore. Click.
No, I think it's fine. Hey, how you doing? There's no problem, no issue with pleasantries like that. But
he's getting clicked too. He's getting clicked too.
No, but I'm aligned with you, Bert, in that we can always hear you.
We can hear. Well, I don't know. There's some days that you can't trust the technology. To your point, though, we will do a whole show on off-season acquisition. I make jokes with Lucas about mock drafts and stuff like that right now. There is still a football season ongoing. There are still football things to be determined and learned about this team's not just present, but future, right? Because now you're talking about, all right, who's going to be a part of this thing next year? Because it doesn't just stop once the trades start happening. I mean, your competitiveness may become less or all these other things. And I saw, Stoney Keeley on YouTube said that, I hate to tell you, boys, but it is time to talk about offseason acquisition. The season is over. Not that's spoken like somebody that doesn't talk about the teams for 4 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to have some level of discourse about the team that is currently being fielded as well. So I do think that those are viable options. I am totally fine if you're not down with the guys in this draft class. There will be all kinds of time in the coming months to have those conversations. But right now, you have to talk about what you're working with and how that's going to lead you into those situations, which is what the rest of the season becomes.
Jake Browning's probably not the stopgap starter.
Nor is Jake Brisket. No thank you on Jacoby Brissett. The guy that just got benched in New England is also a terrible roster, but yeah, I'm good. Coming up next, can Vandy really upset Texas? And more of your phone calls. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hatty B's Hot Chicken. Titans coordinators are speaking to the media. So Colt Anderson, Nick Holtz, Denard Wilson. Anything of interest or note comes out of those, we will let you know. You have a special teams update?
Colt Anderson says Ryan Stonehouse has to have better hang time, and his gunners have to be better in coverage as well. A lot of punt return yards allowed this season.
Doesn't that feel like a chief offseason fall guy, Colt Anderson? Who feels like a bigger fall guy this offseason, Colt Anderson or Nick Holtz?
Well, fall guy also implies, well, somebody had to take the hit, right? The special teams, it's not been good this season, right? So if somebody loses their job, and you don't want anybody to lose their job, but if somebody loses their job because of poor performance, to me, that's not fall guy.
Oh, sure. But, does it actually fix the problems or does it just satiate a little bit of bloodlust for the time being? You know what I'm saying? Because you can fire somebody and it not actually cure the problem, i.e. the New York Jets, but it gives the people who are calling for jobs to be lost a little bit of red meat to just at least distract them for the moment while you continue to try and figure things out around the rest of the stuff that doesn't work.
The Titans are giving up the 5th most punt return yards in the NFL so far this season. They are giving up, I just had it. They gave up 148 yards so far this season.
Where are they in terms of return yards gained? Because I don't think they're overwhelmingly good at that either. And certainly the blocked punts have subsided for the time being. Now watch, as soon as I say that, the Lions will get one on Sunday. But yeah, it's just not a good special teams unit, other than the kicker, who continues to be consistent.
No, I read that wrong. I read you how many punt return yards the Titans have. They've given up the 2nd most punt return yards in the NFL with 264 behind only the Browns.
We were in the midst of a quarterback conversation, 615-737-1045, basically the solution and how you move forward, because it's not yet about personnel acquisition, even though I know that you guys are going to get tired of talking about 3 keys to the Titans trying to beat the Lions on Sunday. I understand that we haven't done that in quite some time because things seem a bit futile. So it's a waste. It's not a wasted exercise, but it's kind of a wasted exercise. But the quarterback thing, not at the trade deadline, at the end of the year, is also worth exploring. And also the idea of, do you do it in the draft or do you do it in the veteran free agency, the way that some of these more successful teams have said, yeah, we've got a team that's ready to go now. Let's go find a proven commodity at quarterback. Let's see if we can put a more competitive product on the field, a la Ryan Tannehill from not that long ago. Justin is up next. Hey, Justin.
Hey, fellas. Just a quick request. Since I'm listening on the app, because I'm all the way up in Massachusetts, could you put me on hold and then I'll hang up after the question?
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I was thinking last year, Levis, he balled out in Atlanta, and I kept hearing that he didn't have any pressure that game. So in a weird way, with the trade of Hopkins, do you think that takes a little pressure off of Levis? Because we know he's kind of maybe like a head case or whatever, and he's not overthinking it now. Like, I have to get Hopkins the ball because we spent some time over the summer when we went away, and now we have to worry about Calvin Ridley, who's flipping out in the locker room that one time. And now it's just play more loose when he comes back in week 10 or 11. And also, with a full week now preparing Mason Rudolph to being the starter versus last week when he found out Saturday, do you expect a big difference or any difference at all for Rudolph? Thank you, guys.
You got so soft there. That was 1:05.
He wants to stay on hold. What do you mean? And he didn't come in and be like, can you hear me?
The FNM Bank chat. It's like, cut him off. He said hello.
Get rid of him. Hostile environment we've created. Okay. So to the second part first. Do I expect a substantial difference with Rudolph over Levis? No, I just watched it in Buffalo. There was not a substantial difference. There were turnovers. The pressure caused the turnovers. Now, maybe he didn't make the mind-melting decisions that led to turnovers that Levis does. I saw the best I saw the best quarterback play I've seen all season from Mason Rudolph in the first half of the Bills game. That's what it is.
18 of 23, over 150 yards, no turnovers, touchdown. Yeah, it was the best.
Flatly the best quarterback play that the Titans have gotten this season. So Mason Rudolph can do that to an extent. But if you have a defensive series or a defensive half that allows, one, your coach's decision-making on 4th and 2 from his own 44 to lead directly to a scoring drive that gave up the lead that you would not reclaim, and an offense that's got limitations, so you can't get in a shootout right now, then yeah, you're going to have a lot of the same problems if you get into a drop-back passing game because this team can't play that way.
And then he asked, could it actually help Levis to not have DeAndre Hopkins out there?
No.
I see what he's saying, though. What happened?
Is it kind of like the Baker Mayfield OBJ thing a couple of years ago?
Maybe, but no, because that felt like more of an OBJ thing, right? Well, I got to keep OBJ happy, right? DeAndre Hopkins is a pro's pro, and I understand these guys want the football. But what happened on the Miami interception?
He threw it to a defensive lineman because Hopkins looked like he slipped.
Did Hopkins slip on that play?
Yeah.
Okay, well, a lot of people saw that as him staring down DeAndre Hopkins, predetermined throw, get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. And there has been some of that.
And Hopkins slipped like that.
Yeah.
All of those things can happen.
Sure. But yeah, so in a weird way, I do see what he's saying in terms of, just get the ball, go through your reads, go through your progressions, get the ball to who's open. Do not open up a play determined to get the ball to one person, regardless of the scenario. I know you design things to get guys open and get the ball into Calvin Ridley's hands.
That's being called.
I understand that. But there are some instances where you don't want him to have a predetermined thought that I'm getting the ball to X player no matter what, because that can lead to problems.
There is some school of thought to that. Sure. So could it have an impact? Maybe. I don't know. We'll probably have to wait 1 week, if not 2 weeks, to see whether or not that's the case, because it's in all likelihood going to be Mason Rudolph. So this is a Mason Rudolph-centric conversation. Mark up next.
Man, that kind of leads right into my point. As far as Mason, I think this is his story. What if it turns out to be like a Mason thing, like Tannehill was when he first came in? And I don't put a lot of blame on Mason last week. With the Bears, they're a great team. And I feel like he'll be capable of managing his team even into next year when we draft somebody and they could learn from Mason on the way up instead of being thrusted into the game like Levis.
Mark, I am so in favor of bringing back Mason Rudolph. He's on a 1-year contract right now. You can bring him back to be the backup quarterback. The Tannehill thing is different. Tannehill was a first-round pick. Like, Tannehill had been a proven NFL starter. Tannehill had started many games. He had led Miami to a playoff appearance, but he did not actually appear in that playoff game. He was hurt. What was the name of that quarterback that started that game against the Steelers and got
Matt Moore?
Matt Moore, that's right. Matt Moore started a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and just got the holy hell beat out of him. It was brutal. Brutal to watch. But Tannehill gave you infinitely more than Mason Rudolph is capable of giving you. We know what Mason Rudolph is, and that's fine. He is a proven backup quarterback in the league. So, yeah, I'm in favor of bringing Mason Rudolph back with a young guy, provided that you can, I guess you don't have to move Will Levis before the draft. You can let it play out in training camp and move him the way that you did Malik Willis. But I am in favor of bringing back Mason Rudolph and moving Will Levis in the offseason with whomever else you bring in to play quarterback for this franchise. Greg Cosell, we did a podcast this morning. He broke down your new addition as well as the matchup against the Detroit Lions. But we'll hear his analysis of how Jerome Baker fits this Titans defense coming up next.
12:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans made some moves on Wednesday, trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs for a fifth-rounder that could become a fourth-rounder in 2025. The team also dealt linebacker Ernest Jones IV to Seattle in exchange for linebacker Jerome Baker and a fourth-round pick. Both of those moves have been made official by the team. Titans traveled to Detroit on Sunday. Calvin Ridley did not practice with a foot injury Wednesday. L'Jarius Sneed did not practice with a quad, and Will Levis was limited with the shoulder injury. Titans coaching staff saying it will likely be Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback for the Titans in Detroit. Thursday Night Football is in Los Angeles tonight. The Rams host the Vikings at SoFi Stadium. Kickoff is at 7:15. Westwood One coverage starts on The Zone at 7. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour is upon us here on 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you. We've got phone calls to take. You're going to hear from Greg Cosell of NFL Films here in just a second. We did the podcast this morning called The Install. If you're unfamiliar, you can check it out on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel as well. Coordinators, as we mentioned, are currently speaking at the podium right now of Calvin Ridley and his involvement or lack thereof, or trying to get him involved in the Titans offense. Nick Holtz is being quoted as saying, he's pressing, we're pressing, everybody's pressing to get him involved. That's a part of the thing that they're trying to figure out. It's just, doesn't the Titans offense look so much harder to execute? Or it almost looks like they're making it harder on themselves. And I'm not here to provide any kind of grand, realizations about this one thing could fix the Titans offense, because there is no one thing that fixes what's going on this year, save an outright new quarterback to the situation. And that's not to say that tossing Trevor Siemian back there behind center would improve your standing substantially. That none of it seems fluid or cohesive, and it hasn't felt more fluid or cohesive or operable in the 6 opportunities that we've seen this thing trot out. I don't know how you stop pressing until you just kind of relax a little bit and try and settle into a drive. Do they look relaxed as an offense?
They did in the first half. And Nick Vanette talked about that yesterday, about that disconnect from first half to second half. So, I'm not watching the All-22 to tell you that how many of the answers were there in the second half that they just couldn't execute, but clearly the answers were there in the first half. Again, poor quarterback play, which they have gotten from Will Levis, is going to make everything look fractured and cause everything to fall apart on offense.
And the penalties were the thing that caused everything to be fractured and disjointed and difficult in the second half, on top of the defense not getting adequate time between drives because the offense kept going 3 and out or being bogged down by penalty, and then Josh Allen just does Josh Allen things on your head, and you're down 34-10 before you know it.
But the whole thing with Brian Callahan is putting the quarterback in situations he's comfortable with, right? I mean, they had success with Jake Browning doing that last year, right? They played above the level that was expected when Jake Browning came in for Joe Burrow last year.
Finished with a winning record.
So you would like to see some of that with Mason Rudolph, and who knows how much getting the Lions' share of the reps with the first team this week, which he didn't really get to do last week, will help with that.
Denard Wilson is also being asked about Jerome Baker, the new linebacker that was acquired in the Ernest Jones swap. You also got a 4th-round pick back with Jerome Baker from the Seattle Seahawks. Both of those trades made official by the 3 respective clubs, Kansas City, Tennessee, and Seattle today, also involving DeAndre Hopkins, obviously. What Denard Wilson is declining to say right now is whether or not Jerome Baker will start. He said he just arrived today, so fair to expect that he's playing. I mean, he's playing in a scheme with some similarities. He's going from Mike McDonald to Denard Wilson, who do have some crossover, of course, but there are differences in the way that they orchestrate their defense. Would you like to hear from Greg Cosell on Jerome Baker and how he fits in this new Titans defense, how the new linebacker fits?
Earlier, I love Ernest Jones as a player, but Baker is a different player, and they may have felt that they needed more speed because Murray can run, but he's also 245. But Baker is a true athlete. It's funny, I remember talking to Billy Davis, who's now the linebacker coach for the Houston Texans, has been in D.C. in this league for a number of teams, and he was actually at Ohio State for a couple of years before he got back into the NFL. And I saw him at the Combine. I know him pretty well, and it was the year that Baker came out. And, Ohio State always has guys, but I said to him, hey, of your guys, because he was the DC there, of your guys, who's the best pro prospect? And he said, oh, Baker. He said, he's a stud athlete. He can run. He can hit. He fits the NFL game perfectly. And I think, what Baker gives them, and I have no idea what his contract is. I'm just talking football now, but
sure.
What he gives them is he gives them speed. He gives them inside, outside, play speed and range. And while Murray can run, I wouldn't necessarily say Murray, that's his full game. Baker is a true stud athlete.
So, Ernest Jones did his job while he was here. But when you watch him and Kenneth Murray, neither are overwhelmingly adept in coverage, but that's not what they're designed to do necessarily. You want to allow for a better version of Kenneth Murray. What did they say they wanted to do with him with the messaging this offseason? Let him hunt, right? Let him hunt. But it's more difficult to do when the other guy is also that kind of a linebacker and you don't have guys who can really hang in coverage. Now, Jerome Baker is better that way. That's what Cosell is describing there. So you have more of a balance of the skill set when both of them are on the field. Jack Gibbons is probably going to be the linebacker that the Detroit Lions see on Sunday, which is not favorable I don't think that's a favorable matchup for either of them. But it's going to be a wait and see on the Jerome Baker thing. I can't imagine that he plays the majority of the snaps against the Lions on Sunday.
Meanwhile, Andy Reid was asked if DeAndre Hopkins is going to play on Sunday for the Chiefs as they play the Raiders. They go to Vegas on Sunday, late afternoon kickoff. He said, why wait? By the way, D-Hop will wear number 8 for Kansas City. Who wears 10? Is it Justin Watson? Who wears 10 for the Chiefs?
Isaiah Pacheco.
Oh, right, of course. Is he still injured?
Correct. Yeah, injured reserve. But he's expected to come off it at some point, probably in the coming weeks.
That's like when Julio went to Philadelphia and put on 80. It just looked weird. I think it was the lettering on
Julio and 80
it was
looked
weird.
very strange.
It was odd.
And D-Hop has been 10 the whole time, right?
Yes, I believe so.
I think even in college he was 10.
Do you know who else wore 8 for the Chiefs, if I'm correct?
Who?
Dwayne Bowe.
Wow.
Really? When?
Oh, D-Hop was 6 at Clemson.
When would Dwayne Bowe wouldn't have been around for single-digit numbers unless he had a second stint with the Chiefs Dwayne Bowe was old.
Okay, this is Google AI. Never mind. Ignore me. Offered me up stuff. Travis Kelce. Come on. All right. I'm totally off the AI train. Just feed me incorrect information.
So how am I supposed to be able to discern between you just outright getting things wrong, you getting things wrong because AI got things wrong?
I was impressed. I was like, hold the hell on.
I was going to say, how the hell is that possible? Dwayne Bowe was like 40.
Hold on.
He was 82 at the Chiefs.
Actually, I can cut all this out in post. Let me start over. Do you guys know who wore 8 in Kansas City before?
Who?
Matt Moore.
Dolphins legend. We were just talking about this. Matt Moore sorted it out.
You're right. That's going to work perfect. Thanks, guys.
I hate you so much. So, DeAndre Hopkins getting immediately involved in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Who do the Chiefs have this weekend?
Thank you for listening to the show. They go to Vegas on Sunday
I was
afternoon.
too busy being lied to by AI and Robert.
Tom Pelissero is reporting. Yeah, 3:25 kickoff in Vegas against the reeling Raiders, who I have no idea who they're going to start at quarterback.
What happened to O'Connell?
Didn't he get hurt? Minshew came back in.
That's why
they signed Ritter.
Whittle is out there running around.
Widow for the Wados.
Oh, my God. We can't do this again.
O'Connell had a thumb injury.
Yeah. So, Jerome Baker, maybe a better fit for this Titans defense. The nice part about the Jerome Baker acquisition is what? It's in 2 parts. The trade is a solid one because you gave up a 5th-round pick for Ernest Jones. Then you basically flipped Ernest Jones like you're in real estate for a 4th-round pick and another player who's on an expiring contract who you were also interested in adding in the offseason because there was some interest in Jerome Baker from this team before he ultimately signed with the Seahawks. So we'll see how he does. We'll see how seamless it ends up being whenever it is that he gets inserted in the lineup or takes over that role again from Jack Gibbons. But, it's still an evaluation. Just because you didn't extend Ernest Jones doesn't mean that you can't do the same thing with Jerome Baker, or you at least get the opportunity to test drive it, see if you like it before you ink a long-term deal, because both of those players are going to be looking for one. More of your phone calls coming up next. We will also discuss the Titans locker room. DeAndre Hopkins out. Is there a leadership void? Jeff Simmons answered that question. We'll let you hear his answer coming up next.
Oh, it is lunchtime, 12:12. That's the best time of day. That means it's time for Hatty B's hot chicken. I know what you might be thinking. I don't know if I want hot chicken in the middle of my Thursday. Well, the good news is, hot or not, or everything in between, Hatty B's is going to have a delicious lunch that works for you. Grilled, fried, the best sides in town. I promise you, the pimento mac and cheese is something that you want to try if you haven't already. Southern Greens, bacon, cheese grits, you can't go wrong. They hand-bread their fried chicken, cooked to order, and again, add your spice level, hot or not, whatever works for you. I know the Titans are out of town on Sunday. Vols are off on Saturday. Maybe you've got a stress-free college football watch day on Saturday, having some people over.
Vandy. How dare you slight Vandy?
Vanderbilt hosting Texas. Of course, how could I forget? There's no better way to get fueled up for your tailgate over on West End or your watch party at home than with Hatty B's. Pick up your flock packs. They feed between 4 to 8 people. Fill up your bucket of chicken, tenders, jumbo wings with your favorite heat level. They come with 2 quarts of the classic Hatty B sides. They start at just $55. Can be ordered exclusively online at Hatty B or on the Hatty B's app. By the way, download the app. You get a free dessert just by doing so. And let Hatty B's fuel your tailgate and watch party this weekend.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hatty B's Hot Chicken. Get your phone calls in, 615-737-1045, the number, before we talk about the Titans' leadership. Now, where does leadership extend to? Does it mean just the locker room? Does it mean just the coaching staff, the front office, the ownership? No, it means all of it. Who is the face of Titans' leadership right now? 615-737-1045. If you have thoughts, you can chime in. In the meantime, we'll get some more of your calls on other situations with the team that are ongoing. The news of the day is that no trades have been made as of yet, just trades made official from yesterday. DeAndre Hopkins has just posted that he has landed with the Kansas City Chiefs. They sent the private jet. He looks very happy for him. Jerome Baker, what do you think Jerome Baker is going to be thinking today? That's a tough thing. Like it's one thing to go to bed, the whole joke about going to bed 1-5, waking up 6-0. I know that the Seahawks are on a bit of a skid here lately.
They're on a longer losing streak than the Titans.
Oh, that's
a fact. That is a fact.
You shill.
Spot the lie.
Yeah, I guess. But that would be a tough thing to be on a team that is still vying for competitiveness. Because what are the Niners? The Niners record's terrible right now.
Yeah, and they are just decimated by injuries.
Right, so you're still vying for the top of the division in the NFC West, and then all of a sudden you get told that you're getting traded to the 1-5 Titans in fourth place. That's tough. Maybe he'll be in the locker room today. We'll talk to him about it. I'm sure he's looking at it as another opportunity to earn a long-term contract, and that's what's on the forefront of all these guys' minds. How about John up next? Hey, John.
Hey, this is quick. I want to get back with my ex. My ex is Ryan Tannehill. So, yeah, I'm looking at the AFC right now. We're, practically last, but we're not out of it. The relationship that I'm in now with these new quarterbacks is not a good one. My relationship with Ryan wasn't a good one, but it's better than what we got now. And that's short term. So I say we call Ryan, sorry, let's get back together, and let's go for this playoffs.
What are you getting him to apologize? What are you getting him? You getting him flowers? You getting him an edible arrangement? What are you getting him?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do whatever. He's family. He's been with us ups and downs through the 3 interceptions in Cincinnati. It was dumb as heck, but I'm sorry, Ryan, come back home. We need you now. We need to go on a winning streak, and we can make the playoffs. The Colts are now, the playoffs stop today, Colts are in the playoffs. So we can knock them out of the playoffs and take their spot. But the long-term solution, Shooter Sanders, Cam Ward, the boys are electric. To be a good quarterback, you got to make a decision in the pocket real quick. And the guys we got now are not doing it. Those guys have been showing it. I'd say we pick one of those up long term. But short term, Brian, I'm sorry. Come back, baby. I'm sorry.
Short term, then you're just calling Ryan to come back for short term satisfaction. How do you think that makes him feel?
It's just user behavior. User behavior, Craig.
Yeah, he's at home right now. We need him.
Toxic. Hey, baby, I don't want to get married, but just come back for a few weeks.
that is the definition of a toxic relationship, because there is something to that, and all three of us are in committed relationships at this point in time. So I'm not gonna wade into these waters with you two, but I will say that there is some level of toxic familiarity with the ex, right? Like you have that chemistry, you got that rapport, you know how each other work, all these different things.
Toby Keith said it better than everybody else. He's like, I'm not talking about settling down. I'm just talking about tonight.
Yeah, that's what John. That's the plea John is making to Ryan Tannehill.
I'm not talking about signing a long-term contract, getting you here. I'm just talking about tonight. That's all. And I'll tell you one thing: if y'all do me wrong, don't get me an edible arrangement. Leave the arrangement off.
You proud of that one?
I was happy with it. Our bosses aren't for those silent air alarms. But
dead air.
It cracked me up. It cracked me up this weekend. I went to a dispensary in Buffalo, and Josh Pate was on the television there. Like, just Pate staring back at me while I'm there getting the edibles. It was jarring just to see. That is also, Josh Pate, underrated, good-looking bald. We talked about Robert Saleh earlier. That's another one. But I did not expect to see him doing a CBS Sports Live hit at the dispensary in Buffalo.
He's got the perfect light bulb head where it's just super smooth, like no craters at all. Definitely jealous. Anytime I feel on my noggin, a bunch of holes.
I think you should have to shave your head for a bit.
Is it just bumpy up there?
Kind of a little bumpy, and I got a big ass head anyway.
I imagine there's like a mole, like you can't shave it because you might clip the mole.
Go ahead. What else? What else I got?
I don't want to talk about your head anymore.
Ashtray soft spot noggin.
Real quick, to add to the headline segment, there is some NFL news. Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey has been selected to be on a 12-person jury.
I did see that
for a
yesterday.
felony case. There's no timetable on how long the case will last.
Well, now he's just missing practice. I don't think he's missing the game on Sunday. I don't think court is in session on Sunday for the game.
Can you imagine being a Cowboy? I mean, everything's bad enough, and now you got the best kicker in the league's got to miss for jury duty?
That's great.
Guilty.
To the Ryan Tannehill thing, though, Ryan Tannehill wants a starting job. You're not giving Ryan Tannehill a starting job. He's not down for the hit it and quit it. He's not down for the one-night stand. Darrington. It's just, they had to be 1-5 before Darrington started calling us again, right? Like, he's been hiding in the shadows. He's been in the same place where we keep Bert, and now he reemerges. Hey, bud.
Hey, first of all, wait a minute. Let's stop this hiding in the shadows. Because when the last time Tennessee been good? I forgot. They had a pep rally because they went to a playoff game. Who does that? Anyhow, I did this for Lucas when he was back there. I have to do this for Bert. Hey, y'all made a comment earlier about the whole how you doing and stuff when you call. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you know the first 8 callers that called, they said they were fine. You ain't got to be number 9. Second thing, you got 90 seconds. Get it up and set it up. Next, when y'all say, hey, thank you for taking my call, you know you can tell that to Robert Walsh, who's the one who answered the phone, instead of telling Buck and Lucas, thank you for taking my call, because Robert Walsh is the one who actually answered the phone instead of telling it.
Look at Burke getting his flowers.
Yeah, you know, I'm just saying, man, give my man some time. All right, finally, Buck, for you, I seen this thing where they were talking about reporters in the locker room and how some players felt like they should not be in the locker room. As the person that's in the locker room, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like it would be a disadvantage or unfair, or do you think the players should have some privacy or a time selected for reporters to come in maybe after they showered and dressed and maybe have time to calm down, or you rather have that in the heat of the moment? All right, now I'll go back to listening. 90 seconds, you see that? It's possible. Y'all tighten up out there, too.
On the nose, and it's 60 seconds.
Well, he
Bert
gave me some flowers, so I wasn't going to play the music on him.
About the locker room stuff. I mean, that's not really relevant to the audience. We never really talked about it. So, for those of you unfamiliar, the NFL Players Association put out a statement. This was a couple of weeks ago, right? It's been a couple of weeks. And it was basically saying that the practice of allowing reporters into the locker room is an outdated one, and they would like a separate space for players to conduct interviews that is not in the locker room to keep reporters out of the locker room. Now, how do I feel about that as a reporter in the locker room? I understand the sentiment, but the players, here's what I've observed after a couple of weeks of this. The vast majority of players don't want to do that because it's more of a hassle. Like, it's more of a hassle to take a separate time, to move them outside while they're getting ready for practice, all these different things, to have them speak to us, then send them back inside, then send another one out. There are some people like Daniel Brunskill is the leader on the forefront in the locker room, in the Titans locker room for this. And so we just don't talk to Daniel Brunskill anymore. Like, there's no reason to talk to Daniel Brunskill. You don't want to be bothered? Okay, we won't talk to you. Nobody else has really had a problem with it. I think the thing that they're also trying to protect against is we're one of the few media corps that's allowed to take video in the locker room. And sometimes if you have a camera shot that's too wide, you may catch some things in the background that you shouldn't be catching. So I understand wanting to protect against that. I think that the access is important. I also understand why it's more important for me than it is for them. But I do think that the audience does, like, you don't get the Calvin Ridley moment if we're not allowed in the locker room. You know what I'm saying? And maybe you don't care about that because it's a 1-4 football team at the time and you're frustrated and all these other things. But, you know, I get why they feel that way.
You also wouldn't get this answer from Jeffrey Simmons about the leadership in the locker room with DeAndre Hopkins gone.
Let's hear from him.
I mean, we all knew what D-Hop brought to the team. But at the end of the day, like I said, you know how this thing go. You know, players come and go. I'm going to miss him for sure, for his presence and what he brought to the team. But, you know, we 1-5. I think the focus need to be on the guys in the locker room, how can we be a better leaders, especially throughout the week? Just focus on the small details and focus on everyone just being disciplined, doing their job. I think that's needed to be the focus going forward. But like I said, we lost two good players today, including Ernest. Gonna miss playing with him the little time that we had. Another guy that had major respect for just over the small time. But, have full confidence in the guys that have been here before him, like Jack Gibbons, and the way he carried himself in professionalism. I think, we shouldn't miss a beat. And the great part about it, especially on defense, our record don't shows it, but we still the number one defense. And that's the exciting part about it, that we playing so much good defense, but not great defense. And like I said, just the small things and the details and the discipline could lead us to a better record than what we got right now.
So that's Jeff talking about the losses in the locker room, but he goes on later in that clip to talk. He's asked a question about, is there a leadership void? Like, are you guys equipped to handle the loss of DeAndre Hopkins or Ernest Jones, who is a vocal player and somebody who had established himself a good rapport with his teammates, was a playmaker on defense, things like that. And Jeff said, in not so many words, I've been in locker rooms where you can feel a divide. This is not one of those situations. I'll take him at his word at that. I don't feel a divided locker room. Now, I'm not in there, but for 45 minutes a day, I guess it's not 45 minutes after games, but 3 days a week I'm in the locker room. And there's no sense that there is a divide necessarily. Things are pretty loose. Things are pretty comfortable. Guys are playing ping pong. Guys are jawing, all these different things. Guys are playing Pop-A-Shot, watching SportsCenter or whatever else is on in the locker room while we're in there screwing around. But the other part of this is, do they have the same kind of leaders that they had when this team was at its best? When you think of Titans leadership, who is the face of Titans leadership for this organization? That can be the owner, who you could literally make the face of Titans leadership by definition. It could be the coach. It could be the general manager. It could be the president of football operations and Chad Brinker, who's heavily involved. It could be Jeff Simmons. Could have said it's DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if you'd make the argument for Will Levis, though he's marketing. The marketing of Will Levis has him as the most front-facing member of the Titans right now, which is not necessarily a redeeming quality.
If you're talking about face of the franchise, when people think Titans right now, they think Levis surrender Cobra against Chicago.
Yeah, they think memes.
They think a Levis meme making a face on the sideline in Miami after he got hurt.
But that's not the face of Titans leadership. That's the face of Titans embarrassment.
Right. Sure. And 1 in 5, that's what the situation's going to be.
Sure.
But we put it to a poll. And who is the face of Titans leadership in terms of the front office? And you lump Brian Callahan in there. So Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, and Amy Adams-Strunk. And right now the majority are saying Rand. Rand, the face of Titans decision-making and leadership. While we understand Amy is the owner and she is the ultimate decision-maker, but in terms of the most forefront person that you think of when the Titans make moves or a trade or who the Titans need to draft, Rand's the name that's going to come up.
Well, yeah, because they suck and they need to rebuild and personnel is the focus.
Yeah.
Like that I get. But that I think is, I don't necessarily think of him in those terms. But, there is some level of ambassador to Rand Carthon, right? Where he is a front-facing representative on the free agents that they acquired. Obviously involved in personnel and things like that. It's an interesting kind of separation of church and state between Rand Carthon's job and Chad Brinker's job and what the Venn diagram of the crossover is between those two. Because I think when people start to either point fingers at, all right, well, why didn't Rand Carthon draft better, or why didn't Brian Callahan call a play better, or whatever the case may be, like you're ignoring all the other pieces and parts that go into that person's job, but it's just easier to assign one face to it. But I guess when I put that question in the grid, I was more talking about the locker room. Because the locker room polices itself. Brian Callahan isn't wandering around the Titans locker room. Rand Carthon's not in the Titans locker room. The locker room is the space for the players. When the Titans were at their best, the face of Titans leadership was many faces. It was Delaney Walker, Wesley Woodyard, Jarrell Casey, Brian Arakpo, Derrick Henry, Taylor Lewan to an extent, even if you want to call him a class clown, like Taylor was one of the front-facing members of this organization. You mentioned Byard, Kern to an extent, right? All different kind of personalities, Derek, Mariota, or Tannehill to some degree, and all different kinds of leaders, but you had a variety. You had a bunch of different kind of guys in that locker room, some that lead by example, some that lead by play on the field, some that lead by being vocal. There just doesn't seem to have been people to fill that void. And I know it's been several years since that collection of players was here as a whole, and you can be a leader differently, but I just don't know who the one voice, I mean, I guess the one voice in the locker room that everybody's focused on, if they're focused, is Jeff, right? Jeff breaks down the huddle.
Yeah.
Jeff is the best player on the team right now, even if he's not having his best year. But is that enough? I don't know. I don't think it has to be one person. I think it has to be a collection of people that are all on the same page about this. And that's why I like this clip from JC Latham, Bert, if we could. Because JC Latham was asked specifically about the trading away of DeAndre Hopkins, and he offered up something about the relationship that DeAndre Hopkins and JC Latham had during their brief time together. Bert's not listening to me. Robert.
Yes, sir.
Play the JC Latham audio, please. At your convenience.
Because D-Hop was kind of my mentor in that area. When I first got here, I was a big D-Hop fan growing up, especially about hearing about how he scores his touchdowns and gives the ball to his mom because she's blind. And I told him when I first got here, I respected, the hell out of him for doing that. And, he told me, he was like, yeah, I mean, you're the new top dog that's coming in, it's a lot of responsibility. And he was just basically giving me the rundown of what to expect and how to go about it. And as time went on, he was like, it's time for you to step up into that leadership role. And, he was just kind of mentoring me through it all. So, I woke up today a little shocked, but I definitely understand the role.
What do you think about the leadership on offense now, minus you?
I mean, it's a vacancy and a vacant spot, and someone's going to have to step up. Our coach says it all the time. It's an amazing sport, but, sometimes a tough industry and tough business, and it's the price of doing business. Some guys might be gone, whether it was their choice or not, and, as a player who's, I want to say left behind, but still in the same environment, you got to just step up and do the most to take advantage of the opportunity.
You guys have the people to fill that big vacancy?
I mean, D-Hop was a legend, but I definitely have no doubt that the guys that are going to step up is going to give everything that they have, despite whatever circumstances that we're in.
What was the most impactful thing that he kind of left you with when you were talking about the mentorship element of it? Not necessarily like lessons or anything like that, but something he said.
I mean, it wasn't really what he said. It was just how he went about it. When we lost the first couple of games, and, I put him and a couple other guys in a group chat and was like, hey, we got to have an offensive meeting. And we talked it through, and he pulled me aside after and was like, hey, when I was, in Houston, when we made it to the championship game, this is what we did as a team for our chemistry. This is how we went about it. And the year after where we lost and everybody was like, oh, how y'all losing? Y'all just made it to the championship the year before. It was because we stopped doing all those things, the little things that bring a team together. So he was kind of letting me know, like, don't be afraid to speak up and, organize things for your guys and hold each other accountable, because when we were winning, that's the culture and the standard that we had over there in Houston. And we made it to the championship, a couple plays away from a Super Bowl, and we thought, we don't need to do all that stuff because we got the players. And the next year, everything just fell apart because they stopped the culture and the standard. So, that's what he was kind of telling me, and that's what, started trending ever since.
So that's JC Latham, the Titans rookie left tackle. Now, that's pretty interesting that he is saying, I mean, and I noticed this on listening to it back now that I'm not talking to him in real time, but it sounds like he's the one texting people about starting that offensive team meeting.
Yeah,
which speaks to the level of leadership that a rookie is having to show. Now, here's the thing.
And I'm assuming when he said championship game, he's talking about the year the Texans played the Chiefs in the divisional round. Because the Chiefs,
what was their record the following year?
Because the Texans never made an AFC championship.
Yeah, because I thought that was because we'd been talking about that because DeAndre Hopkins has never played in a conference championship game.
Yeah, and the following year is 4-12. Bill O'Brien fired.
That's what it is.
Right. So 20. And which, by the way, if remember the Texans had a massive lead on the Chiefs in Kansas City in that game.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs
came back and won.
Ran out of fireworks. They scored so many touchdowns.
And Texans would have hosted the Titans in the AFC championship if they had hung on to that lead.
So, I think you have players who are capable of filling the void. They're just young guys. So they're growing into their roles in real time while you're figuring out the losing. Now, do you want to thrust that responsibility onto, I mean, JC is what, 21? Is he old enough to buy beer? He's 21, at least.
Yeah, because he played, I believe he was a senior at Alabama. Yes, he turned 21 back in February.
Okay, so 21-year-old JC Latham is now one of the focal points of Titans leadership. That's fine. That's what a top 10 draft pick, the number 7 overall draft pick you want to be at some point. It just sounds like he's more ready for it.
Oh, no, he declared after his junior year. Incorrect.
How old is he?
21.
Okay. Point stands. Last call for phone calls if you got them. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Lake lovers, listen up. Tennessee National, a highly anticipated lakefront resort, golf, and marina community, is having a fall sales event, releasing a limited number of lake lots to the public with upgrades and savings for one day only, Saturday, October 26th. You can get an outdoor living space upgrade plus 2 years free boat rentals plus 2 years free social membership. You can also get $10,000 off a golf membership plus 50% off a brand new golf cart. Private golf cart access to the new marina and resort, 10 miles of walking trails, 3.5 miles of shoreline, a brand new 26,000 square foot clubhouse, waterfront concerts overlooking the beautiful lake, pickleball, pools, on-site coffee shop, and so much more. Play on the lake or simply relax at the waterfront restaurant just over 20 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee. Financing is available, so call to secure your private tour, but remember that times are limited. Enjoy life on the water, fresh air, boat rides, and sunshine. Celebrate the lake life and make memories. This limited property release, Saturday, October 26th. Visit us at TennesseeNational.com, or better yet, give us a call, 865-408-9992. Memories begin here. Welcome back to the show. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045, the number. Both quarterbacks speaking today. Will Levis not available yesterday, as is the custom. He'll be at the podium post-practice. Mason Rudolph will speak at his locker room. Perhaps Jerome Baker, the new linebacker, will be in there too. Get a sense of things, and you can check that out on social media here in just a little while. Charlie and Franklin up next. Always a welcome presence. Hi, Charlie.
Good morning. Listen, I hope I get to sports by the end of my minute, but in 1957, I went to work for Allison's division of General Motors, 35,000. I think you'd probably know that. Also, I worked for Ford Motor Company for many years. But anyway, the point was that we had policies that we had to deal with day in and day out. In other words, the worst thing I ever did in my life was have to fire somebody or let somebody go, because I always remember that they needed a living and so on and so forth. So my point is that when that coach called 3rd and 2, run it up the middle, then 4th and 2, run it up the middle, that's when I have to call Amy and tell her to fire that coach, because I just lost my team, because I am not competent enough to call a play for an adult, because I'm supposed to be a guru of quarterbacking. So I guess that's what I want to say. In all my years, there's a time when you don't want to do it, but she's got to fire him now, because the team is gone.
Not even end of year, Charlie? You want him gone now?
No. He has to go after that play. I have to call down on the field and ask the whoever's down there to have him come up and talk to me, because I have to fire him now. In other words, if somebody slaps me in a factory, I have a union will back me by me firing him. So, in other words, I have to have an honest, good reason to fire anybody. But that's enough. That in sports is enough. I just can't believe. I mean, I turned the TV off when he made the play. Have a great day, you guys.
Thanks for the call, Charlie.
6 games.
Now, here, because...
Did you guys catch when he thought he should be fired, though?
Now!
Right now.
So, Brian Callahan, he's talking about the 4th and 2 early in the second half?
Yes, at the on their first drive of the third quarter, when they run the ball on 3rd and 2, they try to run the ball again on 4th and 2 from their own 44. They don't get it. Buffalo turns around and scores the touchdown that gives them the lead.
Yes, so that was the football equivalent of Charlie getting slapped in the factory.
Yeah, well, here's what I will say, Charlie. It can be the thing that gets you fired, but there's a couple of reasons why it won't be the thing that gets him fired right now. If she fires him, even at year's end, it's an admission of her own wrongdoing in all the changes that she made. Now, whether you think that she should have a mea culpa or not, I just don't believe. I mean, right now, it could get worse. Things could happen. Like, things could always happen. But right now, I think that would be too much of, hey, what did you do wrong, Amy Adams Strunk, as opposed to Brian Callahan. The other part of this is, and why I think both of them are safe, regardless of how this turns out at the end of the year.
Both being Rand and Brian.
Rand and Brian is because they're still paying John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, and that's no small bill. So you don't want to, in the second year of the general manager, and I assume that they probably redid the contract when he got his promotion, right? One would assume. I don't know the exact details. Perhaps that's an assumption by me. But they're still on the hook for Robinson's paycheck and Vrabel's paycheck for at least, I want to say, another season after this one.
Even if all of that wasn't the case, I still think it would be insane to talk about firing people 6 games in. I know what the record is. And
6 games in.
We could talk about it more tomorrow.
Unless it's Urban or, Bobby Petrino or like one of these like unmitigated disasters, clear and obvious, this person cannot do the job.
I think it's insane to talk about firing Rand Carthon and or Brian Callahan right now. I think it's crazy. We can talk about it tomorrow.
I don't think anything's crazy.
We don't have time for it now.
Polls.
polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Who's the face of Titans leadership right now? 60% say it's Rand Carthon. 15% say it's Brian Callahan. 21% say Amy Adams Strunk. 4% say Chad Brinker.
Well, it's Brian Callahan because he's the most front-facing regular member of that group, right? Like we see physically Brian Callahan. We hear Brian Callahan most often of any of them. There's nothing. I mean, the GM does not have to speak even at the trade deadline. That was just something that John Robinson did.
Regular polls.
Which Titans wide receiver can we learn the most about after the DeAndre Hopkins trade? V-Love says nothing. We know what we know. Burks is a bust. NWI is the truth. Anthony says, I wonder if Ridley finally starts catching the ball again. Mr. Donkey says, the individual that steps up the most. Sorry, my crystal ball is broken. Lindsay says, Bryce Oliver and Jaquan Jackson. She kind of feels like we know who NWI, Boyd, and Ridley are. Jaquan Jackson is an interesting one.
He said he can play all three positions. He said he's ready for the opportunity. He's the oldest young person I've ever been around.
You just stole that right from Rand.
Well, yeah. But that's the same thing that we said when we interviewed him.
He's a mature guy. He is.
I mean, shit. Whoops. Can't do that. I think that's the first time that's ever happened, isn't it?
Hopefully the last.
Pretty close.
Goodness.
That's because I was giving Bert hell about it yesterday. Point being is, I mean, you remember when we were talking to Tajay Spears about Jaquan Jackson and we brought up the NCAA video game, just assuming the two of them living together were playing video games, and both of them looked at us like, no, you idiots.
We don't have time for games.
We're 22 years old. We don't play video games. And Lucas and I are looking at each other like, oh, oops, this is embarrassing.
What is the most dangerous game on the Vol schedule besides Georgia? 75% are going, it's Vandy. 20% say it's Kentucky. 5% say it's the lowly Mississippi State Bulldogs.
It's the Commodores, the mighty Commodores.
Should Texas be on upset alert at Vanderbilt Saturday? 52% are saying no. Very dangerous.
What do you think?
Yeah, they should be on upset alert.
I agree.
Nobody walks into Vanderbilt and walks out of that construction site alive.
Except for the goalpost. Oh. They literally walked the goalpost out of the end zone.
What would it take? Undefeated at home this year, the Vanderbilt Commodores. What would it take for you to want the Titans to fire the front office? 54% say do not fire anyone right now.
54%?
54%. 24%, which is very much the side I'm on. 24% say they're already there. Fire everybody. 22% say if the on-field product worsens from here.
I mean, it could get worse. I'm not ready to fire anybody yet, and I don't think we really, as a show, we don't typically fire people that way, but
we'll talk about it tomorrow.
There was a bill of goods sold, and the product has not delivered.
Those are the polls.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. One more primetime show tonight, a little Thursday night football sprinkled in. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Blaine and Zach coming up next.